My birthday? When is it? Is it this month? I can't even remember the last time I celebrated it. Leo put on a look of utter surprise, intentionally playing dumb. Man, time flies. I'm almost 25. By the way, how did you even know my birthday? You're such a dork, Chloe Miller said, unable to hold back a laugh. She found him kind of cute sometimes. It's printed right there on your driver's license, clear as day. You only have to see it once to remember. She gave him a playful glare, as if scolding him for not even caring about his own birthday. Besides, who doesn't celebrate their birthday? Are all guys as clueless? Oh, right. A look of dawning realization spread across Leo's face. They'd checked into enough hotels together that Chloe would have seen his ID plenty of times. Which meant, did his other girlfriends know his birthday too? Leo realized he needed to do some serious recon. The last thing he wanted was all of them trying to throw him a party on the same day. He'd have to become the Greek god of time management just to survive it. So, Leo the pig, what do you want for a present? Chloe asked, her clear eyes blinking up at him. She actually cared about getting her boyfriend a good gift. 1. I'm good with anything. As long as it's from you, I'll love it. Strongly recommended. 2. Simple. I want a League of Legends account with every single skin, a fully geared character of every class in World of Warcraft, and a Call of Duty account with every meta weapon maxed out. And make sure it has a cool username. Not recommended. 3. Did those stockings you ordered arrive yet? Could you wear them for me with a naked apron? Recommended. Option 1 analysis. No analysis needed. For any girl who loves you, this is the perfect answer. I'm good with anything, Leo said, choosing the first option. He gently brushed a strand of sweat-dampened hair from her face. As long as it's from you, I'll love it. He added a crucial caveat, but I might have something going on that day. I'll probably only be free in the evening. Leo had learned not to make concrete promises to any of his girlfriends. That way, if something went wrong on the agreed-upon day, he had a built-in excuse. That's fine. Just come back in the evening, Chloe said, completely understanding. Maya and I can make dinner at home, and we'll get a big cake. We'll just wait for you to come home and cut it. She knew he'd been busy lately and wasn't about to make unreasonable demands. Yeah, sound good. Leo didn't overthink it. He could definitely spare some time in the evening to celebrate with the two best friends before heading over to the little heiress's place. Hee, Leo the pig. Chloe shifted closer, her voice a low murmur in his ear. Those stockings I ordered arrived. By the way, are you going to help me put them on? Leo stared in surprise at Chloe, whose eyes were sparkling. Her suggestive words sent his imagination into overdrive. She didn't shy away from his gaze like she used to. Instead, she gave him a sly, knowing look, tracing patterns on his chest with a slender finger. A mischievous, fox-like smile played on her delicate features. It had to be said, even the most innocent, straight-laced girl will eventually get a little wild with her own boyfriend. The once pure and naive elf princess had been thoroughly corrupted. Her thoughts, her way of speaking, she was starting to sound just like him. No wonder option 3, as outrageous as it was, had been recommended. Turns out Chloe was already thinking of giving her boyfriend a naughty little gift of her own. Of course, even though option 2 wasn't recommended, the gamer in Leo still would have loved a gift that catered to his hobbies. Deal. I love you, babe. Leo eagerly agreed, pulling his delightfully wicked girlfriend in for a kiss. Hey, stop it, you. I have to get to class. Maya's already texting me, asking why I'm not at school yet. You're not going? Class is canceled this morning. Professor Shepard needs to give you a private biology lesson. Ha ha ha, no way. You're terrible, Leo. Ouch, you're pulling my hair. MMPH. By afternoon, the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows and bathing the world in a quiet, peaceful glow. On a large bed in the master bedroom, Chloe lay on her side, her perfect form still, sleeping soundly. Her snores were a little louder than usual, as if nothing in the outside world could possibly wake her. Leo tucked the covers around his girlfriend, adjusted the AIC to a comfortable temperature, and then drove over to his media company. In just over a week, the company's first film was set to premiere, and a palpable tension filled the air. Employees rushed through the halls, their faces etched with focus. A few department heads were so busy they brushed past Leo without even a nod of greeting. Leo didn't mind. In fact, he found the atmosphere encouraging. He'd used God's eye to handpick every one of these department heads. Their work ethic and skills were top-notch, and he rarely had to interfere in their domains. He went to his office and immediately dove into his work. Soon, a steady stream of managers and employees was flowing in and out, delivering updates and final reports on the film. Leo focused on each document, carefully reviewing every project proposal and summary from the various departments. At first, Leo had assumed that, with no experience running a company, Making money in this industry would be difficult, certainly harder than writing his web novels. But he soon realized he'd been overthinking it. The combination of his bug-like God's eye ability, his divine talent for directing, his natural charisma, and the team of experts he'd hired made running a media company almost trivially easy. Time ticked by, and Leo lost himself in his work, oblivious to the bustle outside his door. It wasn't until 9 o'clock that night that his office door burst open. Jean, the head of public relations, rushed in without even knocking. "Director Shepard," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Connor Sterling, the Cash King of Florida, just contacted us. He said he wants to visit our company in person. He specifically requested that you grant him the courtesy of a meeting." "Ah, so he's finally making his move," Leo muttered, not all surprised. Some time ago, Connor Sterling had inexplicably invested a staggering $70 million into his film. The movie was now finished, and the man hadn't made a single request. Leo was certain the old fox had something up his sleeve, either for him or his company. "Fine, approve it. Have the PR department make the preparations. I'll meet with this Cash King myself." Leo put on his jacket, ready to head back to Willow Creek Estates. He casually added, "Did his people say when he'd be coming?" Jean thought for a moment. "The 26th of this month." "Wait a minute." Leo stopped Jean as she was about to turn and leave. "The 26th? May 26th? The day after tomorrow?" "That's right." Jean nodded. "Is there a problem, Director Shepard?" "Tell him I'm not available. Have him reschedule. The 27th is fine." Leo rejected the date without a second thought. Was she kidding? The day after tomorrow was his birthday, and he wasn't even sure which of his girlfriends he'd be celebrating with. There was no way he was going to make time to meet some tycoon he'd never even seen before. It might have been an unconventional move, even a bit arrogant. But Leo didn't give a damn what Connor Sterling wanted. If they could work together, great. If not, he absolutely wasn't going to bend over backward to please the richest man in Florida. It's not like Leo needed the money. His personal accounts held nearly $8 billion in liquid assets. That kind of fortune meant he could do whatever he wanted without needing anyone's backing. And besides that, he had the little heiress, Eleanor Hayes, ready to support him. Whether Connor Sterling wanted to cooperate or not, Leo could handle it without breaking a sweat. Starting a media company to make movies was just a hobby, a legitimate way to launder his system earnings into the real world. "All right, I'll go communicate that to his people now." Jean was stunned by Leo's casual refusal. This was Connor Sterling, the legendary Cash King of Florida. The man was a household name, a titan of industry who regularly graced the Forbes list. Once, just by casually mentioning a tiny, obscure coffee company during a live stream, he caused its stock to skyrocket. Now, this giant was personally visiting their company. Regardless of his intentions, simply publicizing the visit would be a massive opportunity for them. Any other fledgling company would have been ecstatic, tripping over themselves to seize such a chance. Yet Leo had turned him down flat, without a moment's hesitation. It was astonishing. Jean had worked for many eccentric bosses before, but no matter how quirky they were, they all knew to show respect when faced with a bigger player. She had never met a young boss who treated the wealthiest man in Florida like he was a nobody. "Hey, Dad, I'm driving. Just left the office." Leo had just pulled out of the underground parking garage when his father, David Shepard, called. "Oh, okay. Well, is everything all right at the company?" "Everything's fine. The movie is about to be released." "Why are you asking, Dad?" Leo found it strange. His father never took an interest in his company. "No reason. It's just, your birthday is the day after tomorrow. I was just calling to ask when you'll be home. Your mother and I have something to tell you." "That day?" Leo paused, giving a non-committal answer. "I'm not sure. I'll come by if I have time. It's really busy at work right now." "And what do you need to tell me?" he asked, a joking tone in his voice. "Don't tell me you got a girl on the side, and Mom found out. You're waiting for me to come home so you can hold a trial and ask who I'm going to live with. Bah, can't you say anything decent?" His mother, Sharon, snatched the phone. Her voice was forceful, but it trembled with a hint of tears. "You have to come home that day. Your father and I have something important to tell you." Leo sensed something was wrong with his mother's voice. "Okay," he agreed thoughtfully. "I'll do my best." In his parents' apartment, Sharon hung up the phone and collapsed into her husband's arms, sobbing. "David, I'm so scared," she murmured, her face streaked with tears. "What if he leaves us when he finds out he's not our biological son?" He won't, David said, patting her back comfortingly. "Leo would never leave us. Right, Sophie?" "Of course not, Mom. Don't worry," Sophie said from the living room couch, her voice bright with excitement. She was flipping through Leo's old medical records, already looking forward to his birthday. "Even without blood ties, our brother would never leave us. In truth, Sophie had secretly looked at Leo's medical records long ago. Being a top student, she'd seen the data and immediately understood that Leo couldn't possibly be David and Sharon's biological son. Of course, when her parents had dropped the 20-year-old bombshell on her just now, she had put on a masterful performance, even squeezing out a few happy tears. Little boy, off to school we go with your little backpack. Come on, don't be slow." Just then, the front door opened and her older sister, Riley, walked in, humming and bouncing a basketball. She stopped dead when she saw the oppressive atmosphere in the living room, her parents clinging to each other and crying. What's wrong? "Riley, come here, quick," Sophie said, her face a mask of disbelief as she waved her clueless sister over. "What is it?" Riley sat down next to her sister, whispering, "Why are Mom and Dad crying? Did my homeroom teacher call and complain about me again?" "No, look at this." Sophie handed Riley 2 yellowed medical reports, adding a dramatic warning. "This one is Dad's, and this one is our brother Leo's. Whatever you see, you have to stay calm. Don't get too excited." Riley, who was built more for sports than for science, stared at the papers, her eyes darting back and forth between them. She looked up at her distraught parents, then at her tense sister. Her face crumpled, and she burst into tears. "Oh my God," she wailed. "Does our brother have a terminal illness?" Sophie just stared. Riley's grades were abysmal. All her skill points had been allocated to sports and video games. She couldn't make sense of the 2 medical reports. After Sophie spent a long time painstakingly explaining the concept of blood types to her dense older sister, she finally delivered the bottom line. "Basically, Riley, it means that Leo, our brother, is not Mom and Dad's biological son. Leo isn't their biological son." Riley's eyes went wide, her mouth falling open as she stared at her sister in utter disbelief. She couldn't make a sound, as if an invisible force was choking her. The brother who had been with her since childhood, who had always protected her, played with her, grown up with her, sharing every joy and sorrow, wasn't her real brother. The thought exploded in her mind like a thunderclap. For a moment, she couldn't accept it, her heart filled with confusion. But then, just as quickly, her breathing quickened. An indescribable wave of joy washed over her. She'd never imagined that the person she'd always seen as her brother shared no blood with her. That meant there were no legal or ethical barriers between them. The idea she had long suppressed in the depths of her heart suddenly felt attainable. "Wait, Mom, Dad, is it true?" Riley looked at her tearful parents, her voice trembling with excitement. "Is Leo really not your biological son? He's not my real brother? What's going on? Who are his real parents?" The old couple exchanged a helpless glance. They sat down on the sofa across from their daughters and patiently began to explain Leo's origins. Years ago, David Shepard and Connor Sterling had been the closest of friends. Their bond was so strong that Connor had even played matchmaker for David and Sharon. In those turbulent times, opportunities to get rich were everywhere. Connor, who came from nothing, was a man of great ambition, always talking about making it big. After scraping together his first bit of savings, Connor said goodbye to his best friend and headed to Florida, full of passion, to start a business. The dream was beautiful. The reality was brutal. In less than 6 months, Connor's life savings were gone, and he was saddled with a mountain of debt. He nearly had his hands and feet chopped off by debt collectors. Fortunately, David stepped in and paid off his debts, saving his life. Compared to the dirt-poor Connor, David's family was quite well off. His father owned a vineyard, and his mother had a textile factory. For that era, they were wealthy. At his lowest point, Connor's wife, who had followed him to Florida, gave birth to a son. Connor could barely feed himself, let alone a newborn baby. So, he begged his best friend, David, to help raise his son for a while. He and his wife then left for Hong Kong to try their luck there. In those days, there was a strong cultural preference for sons. David's father had always wanted a grandson to take over the family businesses. But David and Sharon, risking the penalties for having more than the allowed number of children, had 2 daughters in a row. Out of loyalty to his friend, and perhaps a bit of selfish desire, David agreed to Connor's request. He gave Connor $30,000. There was no written contract, no witnesses, but both men understood what that money meant. And so, Connor took the money and left for Hong Kong with his wife. David and Sharon began raising Connor's son, renaming him Leo Shepard. In the years that followed, it was as if Lady Luck herself had smiled upon Connor. He thrived in the competitive, high-stakes market of Hong Kong, earning his first real fortune. His reputation grew. Later, having achieved success, Connor decided to return to Florida with his wife. This time, they aimed higher. With his keen business sense and decisive leadership, Connor invested in numerous promising ventures. The returns were immense, and his wealth snowballed. He didn't stop there. He founded his own company, the Sterling Group, and built it into a top-tier national enterprise. When the two old friends met again, Leo was in his last year of middle school, and his sisters were about to finish elementary school. Connor and his wife had also had a daughter in Hong Kong, named Cassandra. After a few pleasantries at a hotel, Connor coolly handed David a check for $3 million. He claimed it was to thank David for his help back in the day, but David knew the truth. Connor was there to take Leo back. After raising Leo for all those years, the old couple saw him as their own son. How could they hand him over for a check, no matter how large? The reunion ended on a sour note. David thought that would be the end of it, but in the days that followed, Connor and his wife began visiting their home again and again. The pretense was gone. They stated their intentions plainly. They wanted their biological son back. If it weren't for their decades of friendship and the life debt he owed David, Connor would have long since used his immense power and influence to take Leo by force. Oh my God, our brother's real dad is the richest man in Florida. Riley's mouth hung open wide enough to fit an egg. Her mind was reeling. She couldn't believe that her goofy brother, the one who used to get into trouble with her and now spent his days reading novels and playing games, was the son of the Cash King, Connor Sterling. Anyway, that's the story, David said, his face grim. He sat on the sofa, a freshly lit cigarette between his fingers. The smoke swirled around his weathered face, but his eyes were filled with endless melancholy. On your brother's birthday, I'll find the right moment to tell him the truth, he said, taking a deep drag and exhaling slowly. He looked at his two daughters. I have a plan. Neither of you is to interfere. Don't you dare go and tell him first. Everything has to happen naturally. His voice rose slightly on the last sentence, as if trying to sound more resolute. But inside, he was torn with conflict and anxiety. Revealing such a cruel truth to his son would not be easy. And for the mother and daughters standing by, their hearts were just as heavy, tangled in knots of worry. They feared their brother's reaction to the truth, and they had no idea how to face the storm that was about to break over their family. The next morning, Willow Creek Estates. Leo woke up early. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Lily Reed's beautiful, flower-like face and her pair of calm, clear eyes staring right at him. Unlike her usual shy and gentle gaze, her look this time was strangely serene, with a hint of appraisal. What's wrong? Leo didn't sense anything amiss. He leaned down and gave her soft lips a quick kiss. You don't feel well? He used God's eye to scan her physical condition, but found nothing out of the ordinary. It's nothing. Lily shook her head gently, burying her face in his chest, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. I just didn't sleep well. Then don't go to school today. Just rest at home, Leo said softly, gently patting her silky smooth back. Wanted to stay home with you. Lily snuggled against him, then opened her mouth and gave him a light, playful bite. What was that for? Leo asked, stroking her hair affectionately. For always bullying me, Lily said, pouting. She looked up at him with a mix of grievance and petulance before slipping out his arms, pulling on a silk nightgown to cover her exquisite figure, and heading to the bathroom. This provincial girl is getting more and more interesting, Leo mused. He assumed she was getting revenge for last night and didn't think much of it, finding her growing boldness rather cute. He decided to spend the day at home with Lily and his landlady, so he lingered in bed, lazily picking up his phone to scroll through his social media feed. The first thing he saw were two cryptic posts from his sisters, both published at the same time. Sophie the brat. What's mine will be mine. Sarcastic emoji, sarcastic emoji, sarcastic emoji. Riley the brat. Ha ha ha, it's about to go down. Grinning emoji, grinning emoji, grinning emoji. Weirdos, Leo muttered. He was used to his older sister's random, unhinged posts. He commented dork under Riley's post, adding an eye roll emoji. A second later, a message from Riley popped up. Riley the brat. Old man, you're up early today, huh? Grinning emoji. Offline mode, what's that post about? Is something wrong at home? Riley the brat. Nope. Why would anything be wrong? It's much quieter with you gone. Kissy face emoji. Offline mode. Then what were you and Sophie's post about? Riley the brat. Huh? Sophie posted something? I didn't see it. Offline mode. Haha, guess who the real clown is? You got blocked. A few minutes passed before Riley replied. No way. I just checked mom and dad's phones, and I can't see Sophie's post on their feeds either. What did she post? Leo hesitated for a moment before taking a screenshot of Sophie's post and sending it to Riley. After he sent it, Riley went silent for a long time. Assuming she'd gone to class, Leo was about to get out of bed when a message from the little heiress came through. It was a screenshot. He tapped on it. and the image that filled his screen nearly made him drop his phone. The little heiress. Leo, I've got everything ready. You're free tomorrow, right? You're coming to see me, right? Screenshot. Offline mode. Babe, it's first thing in the morning. Can we talk about something normal, please? Sweating emoji. The little heiress. Leo, you son of a bitch. You're not going to flake on me again, are you? Angry emoji. Offline mode. Fine, whatever you want. God damn it, you fucking slut. You better not be screaming for mercy tomorrow. You hear me? The little heiress. Hee, that's more like it. Cute emoji. Ding. Eleanor Hayes' affinity has increased by 2 points. Current affinity, 90. Please continue your efforts. Hearing the system notification, Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It seemed the only way to deal with the little heiress was to throw politeness out the window. After washing up, Leo came down to the living room. His landlady was in the kitchen making breakfast, and Lily was in the laundry room folding clothes. The two domestic, virtuous women kept the house running so smoothly that Leo never had to worry about a single chore. He walked into the kitchen, pinched the top of a soup dumpling, and popped it into his mouth. He gave a satisfied thumbs up, mumbling through the food. My beautiful chef, your skills are as amazing as ever. You ate it in one bite. Not even a pig eats that fast, his landlady said with a fond, exasperated look. Oh, by the way, Leo, tomorrow's your birthday. Lily just told me she has a surprise for you. No matter how busy you are, you need to make some time to come home. Don't disappoint her. TCH, of course. Leo sighed, though he wasn't surprised. A girl as clingy as Lily would never forget his birthday. All right, I'll make time to come back and celebrate with you guys, he promised. He could just go see the little heiress later. Still, he needed to confirm the time with Lily, so he wouldn't leave the two women waiting around for him. He went to the laundry room. Lily was bent over. Her slender waist curved as she pulled freshly dried clothes from the dryer and folded them neatly into a basket. From behind, Leo admired the soft lines of her body and her perfectly round, pert backside. He couldn't resist reaching out and giving it a light slap. Lily let out a startled ah and quickly covered her rear, dropping the basket and scattering clean clothes all over the floor. Her face flushed bright red as she spun around. When her eyes met Leo's grinning ones, her gaze was a mixture of annoyance, embarrassment, and hurt. She looked exactly like an adorable young wife being teased by her husband. Leo put his hands on his hips domineeringly. What? Am I not allowed? The ever-patient Lily didn't say anything, just shot him a cute glare before bending down to pick up the clothes. Fortunately, the tiled floor was clean, so the clothes didn't need to be rewashed. My wife worked so hard. Let me help. Leo chuckled, taking the basket from her and quickly gathering the clothes from the floor. Ding. Lily Reed's affinity has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 100. Affinity can no longer be increased. You are now the most important person in her life. Ding. Lily Reed's affinity has reached 100. You have received a mysterious treasure box. Open it now. He was halfway through picking up the clothes when he heard the system notification. At the same time, he felt Lily's hand gently stroking his hair. He looked up and saw her enchanting face, filled with deep affection and tenderness, and a hint of resigned acceptance. You jerk! Always bullying me. What do you mean, bullying you? Leo handed the basket to Lily, shamelessly teasing her. Haven't you heard the saying? A little teasing is a sign of affection. The more we tease, the more we love. Lily pressed her lips together and let out a soft huff, giving him an exasperated look. After all this time together, she was starting to learn not to trust her mischievous boyfriend. But then she remembered him calling her wife just now, and the simple girl couldn't help but lower her head, a faint, please smile gracing her lips. Tomorrow is my birthday. What kind of surprise are you planning for me? Leo asked, testing the waters. How did you know I was planning a surprise? At his question, the joy on Lily's face faded slightly, replaced by a hint of unhappy resignation. Well, it's my birthday, and you're my girlfriend, so of course you plan. Isabel told you, didn't she? Before Leo could finish, Lily cut him off coolly. She's the only person I told. The smile froze on Leo's face. He realized Lily's gaze held a world of unspoken understanding, of hurt and forbearance. It was as if she had been waiting for him to say exactly that. It was only then that Leo realized he had walked right into a trap Lily had casually set for him. If he and his landlady were innocent, Isabel would have helped Lily keep the secret, and Lily would have been able to give him a genuine surprise tomorrow. But, of course, they weren't innocent, and Isabel had just spilled the beans. By asking that question, he had just confessed without saying a word. Sure enough, while Lily might look sweet and naive on the outside, she was no simpleton. After all, This was a girl who had scored a 1580 on her SATs. Beneath that gentle and delicate exterior was a sharp and powerful mind. Leo was speechless, his brain scrambling for a response, when Lily set the basket aside. She walked toward him, clutching something dark in her hand. Well, since you already know, it won't be a surprise tomorrow. I'll just give you your gift now. Lily stood before him, took his slightly trembling hand, and placed a crumpled, silky object in his palm. So, do you like it? Your present. Leo looked down. It was a pair of black stockings. Is this? Before he could react, Lily wrapped her arms around him, pressing her cheek against his chest. She murmured, her voice soft with a mix of affection and pain, Leo, I'll let it go this time. I like Isabel a lot, too. But please, don't lie to me again, okay? I really, really love you. Hearing Lily's words of surrender, seeing the black stockings in his hand, Leo's breath quickened. A trembling, incredulous smile spread across his face. This meant Lily was accepting Isabel into their lives. It was only then that he remembered. These familiar-looking black stockings didn't belong to either of the women in the house. They were from that time before the holidays, when his teacher, Lily's mother, had been in his car. She'd taken them off and left them on the seat, and he'd just stuffed them in his pocket. With everything going on when he got home, he had completely forgotten about them. He never did chores like laundry, so he wouldn't have found them. Lily must have found them while checking his pockets before doing the wash. The size and style were obviously not hers. They belonged to a mature woman. And besides Lily, the only other woman in the house was their landlady, Isabel Vance. Lily must have assumed they were Isabel's, and from there, figured out that he and Isabel were involved. And for her to give them to him as a birthday present, it meant she was truly willing to share him with their landlady. Leo couldn't believe it. One careless mistake had accidentally, miraculously resolved the disaster zone he had been dreading for so long. I'm sorry, Leo said, his voice full of genuine remorse. He had just dodged a bullet he'd been terrified of, yet all he felt was a profound guilt toward the girl who was willing to compromise so much for him. This was why he knew he could never be a true player. His heart was just too soft. Lily didn't speak, just quietly leaned against him, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart. After several minutes, she lifted her head, tilting her white neck to look at him for a long moment before a small smile graced her lips. After breakfast, let's go grocery shopping with Isabel. We can stay up late tonight and celebrate your birthday a little early. Okay, Leo agreed, his voice trembling slightly. He knew she was deliberately trying to bring the three of them closer, to smooth over the awkwardness. Really? Lily's warm hand cupped his cheek, her gaze deep and earnest. Really, don't lie to me again, okay? I love you so much. If you lie to me again, I don't know what I'll do. At that moment, a storm raged inside Leo. He desperately wanted to confess everything about the other girls, but he forced himself to hold it all back. I won't. I promise. If he told her everything now, about all the other girls who had nothing to do with her, she would never be able to accept it. Lily's personality was one of deep loyalty and gratitude. The landlady had helped her out so much in the past, and now that her man was already involved with her, Lily had little choice but to compromise. His other girlfriends, however, were complete strangers to her. To drop that bomb on her now would not only put her in an impossible position, but would also leave her feeling lost and alone. A situation this complex would overwhelm anyone, let alone a girl like Lily who wasn't one to take a firm stand. From the doorway of the laundry room, the landlady leaned against the wall, her arms crossed, a wry, melancholy smile on her face. You see now, you little punk? It's not so easy being a player, is it? System opened the mysterious treasure box. Alone in his upstairs bedroom, Leo didn't hesitate to open the reward he'd gotten from Lily. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have received Advanced System Upgrade Card. System Upgrade Card. After use, the host will be able to see the affinity level of all characters toward the host, and will also be able to see the affinity level of character A toward character B. Nice! Leo slapped his thigh in delight. This was exactly what he needed. With this ability, he could now see Lily's affinity for his landlady, or Chloe's affinity for Maya. Being able to track the fluctuations in their relationships would be an incredible advantage in managing his disaster zones. Leo ended his dialogue with the system and eagerly went downstairs to the living room. You want to know what Lily's affinity for his landlady was? Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, dappling the living room floor. Lily and Isabel Vance sat at the dining table, quietly eating their breakfast. A suffocating silence hung over the room, as if time itself had frozen. They both picked at their food with chopsticks, careful not to make a sound. Their gazes would occasionally meet, probing, before quickly darting away, as if deliberately avoiding each other. The awkward atmosphere was palpable, like ants crawling all over his skin. This wasn't how they usually were. Clearly, they had talked about him, or rather, they both now knew about their entangled, ambiguous relationships with him. Several minutes passed. They would occasionally utter a short phrase, their voices barely audible. Each word seemed carefully weighed, spoken with hesitation and restraint. The conversation was stilted, lacking its usual natural flow. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, turning what should have been a warm breakfast into a heavy, oppressive affair. Lily and Isabel both knew the score, but chose to remain silent, unwilling to touch the sensitive topic. Yet, the silence didn't dispel the awkwardness. It only made it stronger, like a dark cloud hanging over them. Just watching from a distance made Leo cringe, his toes curling in secondhand embarrassment. Whatever. Let's see what their relationship is like. Leo focused his gaze on Lily and his landlady. A moment later, their affinity levels for each other popped up. Current affinity of Lily Reed toward Isabel Vance, 40. Please continue your efforts. Current affinity of Isabel Vance toward Lily Reed, 32. Please continue your efforts. Both women were relatively open-minded, or perhaps they both had reasons to accept the other. The landlady had helped Lily a lot in the past, and she genuinely liked Lily's purity and kindness. So, their initial affinity for each other wasn't low. This is a powerful tool. Looks like I'll have to find ways to get their affinity up in the future, Leo mused, satisfied. Ahem, Leo, his landlady said, standing up abruptly as soon as she saw him, eager to break the tension. The weather's nice today. Lily was just saying we should go pick some things up this afternoon. Want to come with us? Yeah, no problem, Leo agreed without hesitation. Around 3 in the afternoon, Leo drove with a joyful smile on his handsome face. In stark contrast, the passenger seat beside him was empty. Lily and Isabel were sitting in the back, chatting and laughing as if they had completely forgotten to compete for the seat often seen as a symbol of sovereignty. Interestingly, despite both women being fully aware of their special relationship with Leo, the atmosphere in the car was surprisingly harmonious. There was no awkwardness or coldness, just a comfortable rapport. It was as if the complicated emotional entanglement hadn't negatively affected their existing friendship at all. From the driver's seat, Leo kept his eyes on the road, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror at the two beauties in the back. He was secretly relieved. He had worried the situation would be incredibly awkward, but he never expected them to be so magnanimous and understanding. Seeing Lily and Isabel chatting so cheerfully, Leo felt a deep sense of contentment and hope for the future. Their tangled relationship had only just come to the surface, so a little awkwardness and disharmony was to be expected. It was a bizarre situation, after all, but time had a magical way of smoothing things over. With enough time, his landlady and Lily would gradually adapt to this unique arrangement. Life was full of possibilities, and people were surprisingly resilient. The life he had always dreamed of might actually be within reach. In the back seat, his landlady was stunning, her long hair flowing over her shoulders, her makeup flawless, and her dress fashionable. Lily was fresh and lovely, her shoulder-length hair framing a cute face, dressed in a casual t-shirt and jeans. One mature and alluring, the other pure and adorable, the two girlfriends chatted amicably. Even when they fell into a brief silence, neither of them turned to Leo to fill the void. This was an important signal, an unspoken agreement not to compete. The BMW glided smoothly down the road, the scenery outside a picturesque blur. Leo drove, listening to soft music, savoring the beautiful moment. They were heading to a large supermarket to buy groceries and snacks. He focused on the road, his heart swelling with an indescribable excitement and joy as he watched his two girlfriends getting along. Now, Leo's biggest worry was his other girlfriend, the petite, innocent, and adorable Chloe Miller. When the truth finally came out, how in the world was he going to placate her? He was fairly confident he could handle the dynamic between Chloe and Maya Pierce. After all, the two had known each other since middle school and had a strong bond. The real, terrifying question was, what could he possibly do to convince his demanding, proud, and spoiled little girlfriend to generously accept Lily and his landlady? Without a doubt, that would be Leo's most horrifying and intractable disaster zone, bar none. After they finished shopping at the food mart, Leo's mind started scheming, trying to figure out how to push the two women's relationship even further. A glint appeared in his eye as an idea struck him. We bought a lot of stuff today. How about I go get the car from the parking lot first? You two can wait for me here. The The two women exchanged a slightly awkward glance, but seemed to think it was a good idea. Carrying all these bags would be a pain, and having to bring the car around would be much easier. They nodded in agreement. All right, just wait here. I'll be right back, Leo said, inwardly celebrating his small victory while maintaining a casual expression. He turned and walked quickly toward the parking lot, leaving the two beautiful women standing alone at the bustling entrance of the supermarket. One woman exuded a mature charm and undeniable allure, while the other was tall, slender, and stunningly pure. The afternoon sun bathed them in a warm glow, highlighting their beautiful figures. A gentle breeze rustled their hair. It was a picturesque scene, earning them more than a few appreciative glances from passersby. His landlady's ability to turn heads was surprisingly on par with the devastatingly beautiful Lily Reed. The main reason was that the landlady was in phenomenal shape, having maintained her body with extreme care. Standing next to the 20-year-old Lily, there was no sense of discord, but rather a captivating contrast. No one could have possibly imagined that these two women, so different in personality and appearance, belonged to the same man. "How have things been at school?" the landlady asked, cautiously breaking the awkward silence as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Inwardly, she was cursing Leo. Isabel knew exactly what he was doing, creating an opportunity for them to be alone together to hopefully improve their relationship. That little punk was a clever schemer. It's been good." Lily's face flushed slightly. She was never one for words, her personality more introverted and shy. With Leo around, the atmosphere had been tolerable, but with him gone, the tension between her and the landlady felt even thicker. She had no idea what to say and was starting to panic. She stuck a glance at Isabel and saw that she looked just as uncomfortable. An invisible wall seemed to have sprung up between them. But even so, both women were trying their best to adapt, because neither of them wanted to leave the bastard who was currently fetching the car. "Isabel," Lily said, taking a deep breath and bravely starting a new topic. "I remember Maddie's birthday is next week, right? I can take a day off from school, and we can all go to Cascade Peaks Amusement Park together." She knew if she didn't do something, the situation would only get worse. She had to resolve this awkwardness, to get used to Isabel's presence. "Oh, okay. That sounds great," Isabel said, nodding nervously before managing a playful smile. "If that girl finds out, she'll probably be ecstatic for days. Kids love to have fun. My little sister was the same way," Lily said with a small smile of her own. They made eye contact for a moment, then lapsed back into a brief silence. "Look, Lily, I'm sorry," the landlady finally said, unable to bear the guilt any longer. Lily looked quietly at Isabel's remorseful face, then stared toward the parking lot exit. She didn't say a word, but her hands, clutching the woven plastic bags, tightened unconsciously. Even for someone as tolerant and kind as Lily, this kind of relationship was impossible for any normal girl to accept. And Lily was the type who loved to cling to her boyfriend. How could she possibly accept sharing him with another woman so quickly? But then she thought of all the times Isabel had helped her, how her sister was now attending the best school in Portland thanks to her. The hands that were being painfully indented by the plastic handles slowly relaxed. "It's okay. I don't blame you, Isabel. If anyone's to blame, it's him." Isabel gave a wry smile. Even she, with her sharp wit, was at a loss for words in a situation like this. "Let's just live together from now on," Lily finally said, a genuine smile of acceptance on her face. "There's a lot I have to learn from you anyway, Isabel." Isabel was taken aback for a second. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears as she gave a small, gentle nod. A strange, harmonious yet awkward atmosphere began to form between them. Isabel." Just then, a familiar, pleasant voice called out from beside them. Isabel turned in surprise to see two girls walking toward them. They looked to be around the same age, both pushing a full shopping cart and smiling at her. One had long, beautiful black hair and clear, captivating eyes. The other had her hair in a neat ponytail, her face exuding a sunny, youthful energy. She was curiously sizing up Isabel and the girl standing next to her. When her eyes landed on Lily's extraordinary figure, they widened in shock. Isabel took a moment to place them. They were Leo's sisters, Riley and Sophie. Isabel was about to smile and greet them when a sudden thought stopped her. Did these two know about Lily and Leo? Did they even know their brother had a girlfriend? Before Isabel could speak, Sophie stepped forward, a sweet, harmless smile on her pretty face. "You must be Lily Reed, right?" Yes. And you are?" Lily asked, blinking curiously. She didn't recognize the two younger girls. "I'm Sophie Shepherd, and this is Riley." Sophie introduced them cheerfully. "We're Leo's sisters." At that, A nervous but happy smile bloomed on Lily's face. Oh, you're Leo's sisters. I'm his girlfriend. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. Oh, is that so? Sophie's eyes scanned Lily for a few seconds before she broke into an innocent, sweet grin. Well then, it must be fate that we met today. What? You're my brother's girlfriend? Riley stared at Lily, her mouth hanging open, so wide you could fit an egg in it. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, her mind reeling in shock. She never would have thought that her quiet, well-behaved brother would be playing two girls at once. And both of them were freshman stars at PSU. Lily didn't notice anything was amiss. Assuming her future sister-in-law simply didn't know about her, she nodded shyly. Leo and I have been dating for almost a year. I want to meet you both for a while now. What? This time, it wasn't just Riley who was stunned. Even a usually calm and collected Sophie was rattled by this bombshell. If what she said was true, that meant her brother had started dating Lily at the same time he started dating Chloe, with no gap in between. The sisters exchanged a shocked glance. Wait, my brother, Riley started to say, but Sophie immediately cut her off. Wow, my brother is so lucky to have found such a beautiful girlfriend like you. Oh no, not at all, Lily said, waving her hands in embarrassment at the compliment from her future sister-in-law. Sophie studied the bashful Lily, thinking to herself, this girl is just as naive as they say on the campus subreddit. She glanced around before asking casually, Isabel, is it just you two shopping today? Where's my brother? You want to get the car? He should be here any minute, the landlady replied nervously, a question forming in her mind. Why were the two girls so shocked by Lily's existence? Had Leo never mentioned her to them? Isabel's brow furrowed. Something wasn't adding up. I see. Sophie's eyes darted around for a moment before she stepped forward, her smile warm and friendly. Well, sister-in-law, we have to get going. Can we exchange numbers? Oh, of course. Lily immediately took out her phone, and they added each other. Hearing her younger sister-in-law call her, that was just as potent as when Leo had called her wife that morning. Riley had no idea why her sister had cut her off, but her brain was already overheating, so she just stood there in stunned silence. We'll get going then, Sophie said, linking arms with her sister. Sister-in-law, let's chat online sometime. And be sure to say hi to my brother for me. Okay, I will, Lily replied happily. Sophie then turned her calm, unreadable gaze to the landlady, holding it for several long seconds as if contemplating something important. Then, her lips curved into a sweet smile. Isabel, we'll see you around. The landlady, caught off guard, managed a nervous smile in return. Okay, see you later. A strange feeling crept up on her. There's something off about that girl, she thought. Is it just my imagination? Once the sisters were a safe distance away, Riley pushed the cart, her heart still pounding. What do we do now? Should we tell Mom and Dad? Do you want our brother to die? Sophie shot her clueless sister an annoyed look. If you tell them, forget about how they'll deal with him. Knowing our brother's temper, he'll hate you for the rest of his life. Oh, then let's not say anything, Riley said, shaking her head fearfully. She didn't want Leo to hate her. You're lucky you didn't add the word to back there, Sophie said, still shaken. Otherwise, our brother would have been truly finished. It's his fault for two-timing them. It's just too much, Riley grumbled, a hint of jealousy in her voice. Riley, why do you care if our brother is two-timing someone? Sophie asked, her fingers flying across her phone screen. She looked up, her clear eyes blinking innocently. Don't tell me now that you know he's not our real brother. You've fallen for him? Ugh, as if. Who would like that goblin? Riley made a disgusted face. Even with money, he's still a goblin. A cheating, two-timing goblin. Only a ghost would like him. Oh, is that so? Sophie held up her phone, which was playing a recording of their conversation. She looked at Riley's stunned face and murmured with a complete lack of shame. You said it. So you better not try to compete with me in the future, okay? Huh. Riley blinked stupidly. Back at the supermarket entrance, Leo finally pulled up in his black BMW. Sorry about that, guys. There was a fender bender in the garage. It took security forever to clear a path, Leo said, feigning apology while secretly congratulating himself on his successful plan. Let me get those. The sun's really strong. Let's head back. He got out of the car and walked toward them to take the heavy shopping bags. I met your sisters just now, Lily said as he approached. Her words nearly gave him a heart attack. Who? Leo stared at her, his heart momentarily stopping. Sophie and Riley. The two sisters you told me about, Lily repeated, blinking. We ran into them right here at the entrance. We even exchanged numbers. They were in a hurry, so they just said a quick hello to your girlfriend and left. They told us to say hi to you, the landlady added, giving a slight shake of her head and a subtle, warning look. Leo instantly understood. Isabel was telling him that the girls hadn't mentioned Chloe to Lily. The heart that had nearly stopped started beating again. "Oh, that's great," Leo said, taking the bags from them. He turned his back and teased, "You should chat with them more. When we have time, I'll take you to meet my parents so they can properly approve of their new daughter-in-law." "Okay," Lily said, her voice full of anticipation, completely oblivious to the fact that Leo had already broken out in a cold sweat. Late at night, the city was cloaked in darkness, but the brightly lit living room was filled with laughter and joy. In just a few minutes, it would be Leo's 25th birthday, and the two women and two lively little girls of the house were celebrating this special occasion together. Lily and Isabel were busy setting up for the birthday dinner, carefully arranging flowers, candles, and beautiful tableware, making the room warm and romantic. The two little girls ran around excitedly, helping pass things, their faces beaming with innocent smiles. Meanwhile, Leo had made an excuse to hide in his bedroom. His heart pounded as he took out his phone, his fingers trembling as he messaged Sophie. The sisters had found out about Lily today, and Leo was terrified Sophie would tell his parents. Once they knew, the disaster zone he had been dreading would arrive ahead of schedule. The thought sent a wave of panic through him. He had to test the waters to see what his sisters' attitudes were and whether they had already spilled the beans. If they hadn't, he might be able to do some damage control. But if they had, even a player like Leo had no idea how he would handle the fallout. Offline mode. "Sophie, you and Riley went to the store today?" Cute emoji. Sophie the brat. "Yep. What's up, bro?" "I even saw Isabel, your landlady." Cute emoji. "She's playing dumb." Leo muttered nervously, typing again. "So, besides Isabel, did you see anyone else?" Leo threw out a seemingly pointless question, but it was really a test of Sophie's stance on the matter. Both of them knew the answer, but the question allowed him to subtly probe her intentions. It was a common but clever conversational trap. Sophie the brat. "Well, bro, besides the landlady, who else were you hoping I saw?" Cute emoji. Sophie's reply made Leo's mouth twitch. She was using his own tactics against him, throwing the conversational grenade right back into his lap. Seriously, Leo's brow furrowed. He knew his little sister had always been sharp, with high EQ and IQ. But wasn't this a bit much? How could a 17-year-old be this cunning? 1. Sophie, I'm begging you. Please don't tell Mom and Dad about Lily. I'll do whatever you want from now on. Recommended 2. Sophie, if you don't tell Mom and Dad about Lily, I'll break up with Chloe, and I'll do whatever you want. Okay. Strongly recommended 3. Don't play games with me. If you dare tell Mom and Dad about Lily, I'll go scorched earth and start hitting on Riley. Try me. Not recommended. Option 2 analysis. Proactively offer to leave the girl who poses the biggest threat to Sophie and submit to her desires. This will guarantee she adores you. Leo was about to curse the system for its insane suggestions when he had a sudden realization. The system's recommended options were always designed to increase the other person's affinity for him, not to actually solve his problems. After all, he was bound to a social support system. But there was no way he could break up with Chloe. Besides, this response was so pathetic and weak. Would Sophie really like that? How could that possibly be catering to her tastes? Unless she was. In an instant, a terrifying guess flashed through Leo's mind. His sweet, adorable little sister. Couldn't be a sadist, could she? Sophie the brat. Bro, you still there? I was just telling Mom that I saw you at the supermarket with your landlady. She asked if you were coming home tomorrow. Supermarket. Landlady. The words were a clear threat, forcing Leo to make a choice. Offline mode. Sophie, you win. Just don't tell Mom and Dad about Lily, okay? In the end, Leo surrendered. He had no choice. Sophie held a trump card, and she was his sister. There was no room for negotiation. Late at night, just before midnight, in Leo's old bedroom, Sophie saw Leo's message of surrender, and a satisfied, expectant smile spread across her face. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Sophie the brat. He, of course not, my good big brother. It's normal to do bad things. As long as you don't get caught, it's fine. Sophie will keep your secret for you. Pat on the head. Offline mode. Don't call me bro. You're my big bro now. Wry smile. Sophie the brat. Don't say that, bro. It makes it sound like I'm threatening you. I wasn't threatening you, was I? Cute emoji. Offline mode. Fuck this. I'm out. Good night. Sophie didn't seem to mind Leo's angry outburst. In fact, she found his cornered, struggling demeanor quite amusing. As the clock ticked over to May 26th, she typed out a cheerful message. Happy birthday, big bro. This time, Leo didn't reply. He was genuinely pissed off by his little sister. He still has a little temper, Sophie murmured to herself. She lay back on Leo's old bed, resting her head on a striped pillow and taking a deep, satisfying breath. A greedy, joyful smile lit up her face. I told you, what's mine is mine. Back at Willow Creek Estates, Leo, the two women, and the two energetic little girls were getting ready to cut the birthday cake. Staring at the flickering candle flames, his mind on the fact that his most terrifying sister now had leverage over him, Leo let out a soft sigh. What's wrong? You don't seem very happy, his landlady noticed, her brow furrowing in concern. Lily looked up at him as well. Are you not feeling well? I'm fine. Leo saw everyone looking at him and didn't want to ruin the mood. He forced a smile. Come on, let's cut the cake. Hand me the knife. Maddie quickly waved her hands. Big brother Leo, you haven't made a wish yet. You can't cut the cake. Oh, right. Then I'll make a wish. Leo clasped his hands together, closed his eyes, and silently made his wish. Then he smiled. Okay, time for cake. Big brother Leo, what did you wish for? Maddie whispered. Maddie, if you say your wish out loud, it won't come true, Isabel reminded her. It's okay, Leo said, ruffling the little girl's hair. His voice was earnest, filled with a deep longing. I just wish that everyone can be happy from now on. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Leo's face. He slowly opened his eyes. Lily was already gone from the bed beside him, but the sheets were still warm. She must have just gotten up. Leo sleepily reached for his phone on the nightstand. The screen lit up, and a flood of notifications from his messaging app instantly jolted him awake. He looked closer. They were all birthday wishes from friends and family. Riley the brat. Old man, happy birthday. Come home early. I bought you a huge cake. You can pay me back for it later. Sophie the brat. Happy birthday. Come home today. I have a big surprise for you. Elf princess. Leo the pig. Happy birthday. When are you coming over to celebrate? I took the day off just for you. Bestie. Daddy, happy birthday. This is your present for me. It took me forever to tie myself up all by myself. Do you feel bad for me? 25-second video. The little heiress. Leo, when are you coming over? Your place or mine? The messages poured in from everyone in his life. Each one was filled with sincere emotion and good wishes. Some were warm words, some were funny memes, and some were carefully crafted videos. Reading them, Leo felt a surge of warmth and joy. He knew these people cared about him, that they were all celebrating this special day with him. He read each message carefully, feeling their love and support. Only Maya's video made his blood run hot. He couldn't help but wonder how she managed to tie herself up with red silk ribbons all by herself. Surely Chloe hadn't helped her, right? After carefully assessing his schedule for the day, Leo began to reply. His parents would be the easiest. He could just find an excuse to have a quick meal with them and his sisters, make some small talk, and then bolt. From there, he'd go to Chloe's place to celebrate with the two best friends, and finally, he'd head over to the little heiress's place to fulfill his promise. After getting dressed and washed up, Leo went to the living room. Big brother Leo, happy birthday. Lily and his landlady were in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Maddie and Grace ran over to him, their faces alight with excitement. It looked like they had planned this together, a special birthday gift for him. Big brother Leo, I made this. Maddie held out a beautifully decorated box tied with a pink ribbon. Inside was a chocolate cake. I drew this. Happy birthday. Grace shyly handed Leo a crayon drawing of their family. It showed two women, two little girls, and a bald man in the middle who must have been him. Everyone was smiling in front of Big House. Wow, this is beautiful. Thank you, Grace, Leo said, ruffling her hair. The two little girls were so innocent, with no concept of material value. They simply wanted to give him the most precious things they could think of. It was a small gesture, but the genuine emotion behind it was priceless. Grace looked down shyly, then gathered her courage to look up at the kind older brother. A rare, sweet smile spread across her face, one that was just as endearing as her sister's. Isabel. What is it? Lily tilted her head slightly, looking through the kitchen's glass door into the living room. Leo was sitting on the sofa, patiently scooping a tiny piece of cake with a small spoon and carefully feeding it to Maddie, who was perched on his lap. The little girl's eyes crinkled into happy slits as she mumbled for him to have some too. Leo, of course, wouldn't take food from the little girls. He claimed he had a toothache, then scooped another spoonful and offered it to Grace, who was watching with wide eyes. His expression was one of pure affection. Lily just watched, a soft smile unconsciously forming on her lips as she murmured, "This is such a good life." Isabel, who was cutting fruit, paused. Her gaze softened as she turned to Lily and replied softly, "Yes, it is." The two women were different in age and personality. But what they both craved most was this exact kind of warm, family atmosphere. After a wonderful breakfast, Leo drove to his parents' apartment complex. Well, it looks like we have some important guests. As he pulled into the parking lot, he noticed a luxury sedan parked in his family spot. He looked closer. It was a Hongqi L5, or rather, its American equivalent. Seeing a Lincoln was normal, but this was a custom, armored Lincoln Continental. It wasn't a car you could just buy, even if you had the money. The background check for purchasing one was notoriously strict, a week-long investigation into the buyer's education, personal records, employment, and any criminal history for them and their entire family. Any blemish, and you could forget about ever owning one. TCH, looks like this meal is going to take a while, Leo grumbled, assuming his dad had invited some important business contact over for his birthday. He parked his BMW in a neighbor's spot and walked toward the elevator. A few seconds later, the doors slid open. Inside stood a graceful, beautiful young woman, clinging to her mother and sobbing, tears streaming down her face. Why them? We're not even related by blood. There, stop crying. We'll have your father figure something out, the mother said, gently patting her daughter's back. Her own eyes glistened with tears. The whole scene was strangely oppressive. Next to them stood a middle-aged man in a perfectly tailored black suit and gleaming leather shoes. He had neat, short hair and a strong jaw, his deep-set eyes filled with sorrow as he watched the mother and daughter. The moment the elevator doors opened fully, the three people inside started to step out, but then they saw Leo. They froze. All three of them stared at him as if they had seen a ghost. The mother and daughter, who had been weeping just a second ago, instantly fell silent, their eyes wide with disbelief. Leo glanced behind him, then touched his own face to make sure there wasn't anything on it. He asked, confused, is this elevator going up or down? Inside the elevator, the mother and daughter's lips trembled uncontrollably, tears welling in their eyes. The girl wiped her tears and opened her mouth to say something, but her mother gripped her arm tightly, pressing her lips together and shaking her head in tearful desperation, as if hiding some unspeakable secret. The middle-aged man beside them hesitated for a moment, stunned, his breathing visibly quickening. He finally managed to force a strained smile. Going up. Come on in, son. Leo noticed the strange tension among the trio. Figuring it was just a family spat, he didn't give a second thought. He pulled out his phone, opened his texts, and stepped into the elevator with his head down. As the car ascended, the family of three stared at Leo with an almost frantic intensity. Their eyes were filled with an indescribable mix of emotions. The elegantly dressed woman, in particular, couldn't stop the tears from streaming down her face the more she looked at him. When Leo's curious gaze flickered toward her, she quickly looked away, a shadow of irremovable guilt in her eyes. Leo also noticed that since he'd gotten on, none of them had pressed a floor button. They were just staring at him. Baffled, Leo opened his phone's front-facing camera to check his face. Nothing out of the ordinary. Fortunately, his parents lived on the 5th floor, and the elevator arrived quickly. Leo strode out, and the family didn't follow. Brother. Just then, the girl in the elevator cried out, her voice raw and heartbroken. Leo stopped dead in his tracks and turned, curious, toward the slowly closing elevator doors. The girl, her face a mess of tears, was being held back by her mother. She vanished from sight as the doors slid shut. Weird, Leo muttered, completely baffled. He walked down the hall to his parents' apartment and knocked, planning to have dinner and chat for a bit before heading out to celebrate Chloe's and his own birthday. You're back. Come in quick. It was his mother, Sharon, who opened the door. Leo noticed her eyes were red, and her polite voice seemed to tremble. Stepping into the living room, Leo immediately sensed that something was deeply wrong. His sisters, Riley and Sophie, were sitting on the couch with red, swollen eyes, tears clinging to their lashes. They weren't talking to each other, just staring at him with tear-streaked faces as he walked in. His dad, David, was busy in the kitchen, silently stir-frying, as if trying to mask his unease with the routine of cooking. This home, usually filled with laughter and the comforting chaos of family life, was now blanketed in an unspeakable, oppressive atmosphere. It was as if an invisible shadow had settled over every corner, pressing down on everyone's heart, making it hard to breathe. The room was thick with a heavy silence, broken only by the intermittent sizzle of the wok from the kitchen. It felt like the calm before a storm, tense and suffocating, yet impossible to describe. On the table sat an exquisite cake, its sweet aroma filling the air. It was probably a birthday cake from his parents or sisters. But then Leo's sharp eyes caught something else. Another cake in the trash can in the corner. This one was even bigger, covered in a thick layer of cream and colorful fruit, looking even more delicious. It had been carelessly shoved into the bin, and the card that read "Happy Birthday, Leo" was brutally folded in half and tossed in with it. The faint scent of discarded buttercream hung in the air. "What's wrong?" Leo walked over and sat down between his sisters, his heart aching as he wiped their tears. "Why are you crying?" Usually, his sisters drove him crazy, but as their brother, he cared about them deep down. Wah! His comforting words only made them cry harder. They threw themselves at him from both sides, wailing. "Don't cry, don't cry. I'm here," Leo soothed, his own heart clenching as he held them. It felt just like when they were kids. He looked up at his mom. "Mom, what is going on? Don't just stand there." "Well," Sharon stammered for a long moment before finally confessing. "Your father came by earlier." "Huh? My dad?" Leo looked toward the kitchen where David was cooking, blinking in confusion. "He went out? I didn't see him downstairs." Seeing Leo's curiosity, Sharon steeled herself and said, word by word, "I mean, your biological father, Connor Sterling." "What?" Leo gently pushed his sisters away and shot to his feet. His face was a mask of pure shock, his eyes wide as if they were about to pop out of his head. Then, just as quickly, the shock melted into a knowing, playful smirk. "Oh, I get it. You guys are trying to pull some ridiculous prank on my birthday, trying to make a fool out of me, right?" But as the joke left his lips, he saw that his mother's and sister's expressions didn't change. Their silent, grief-stricken faces were the answer. "No, for real." Leo stood frozen, as if petrified, staring at his two sobbing sisters. His mind was a complete blank. The shock was beyond words, plunging him into a state he'd never experienced before. The home he'd lived in for over 20 years wasn't his real home. The parents he'd called mom and dad for over 20 years weren't his biological parents. The two sisters he'd looked after for over 20 years weren't his real sisters. And his biological father was the wealthiest man in the state, Connor Sterling. "So that's what this is all about," Leo murmured, the pieces clicking into place. Now he understood why Connor Sterling had invested $50 million into his movie for no apparent reason and had wanted to see him on his birthday. No wonder those A-list actors who'd refused to sign the contract one day had eagerly joined his crew the next. It was all Connor Sterling pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Leo even suspected that the mysterious $500,000 investment he'd received when he first started adapting web novels into short films had probably come from him, too. "Don't tell me that family in the elevator was." Leo muttered to himself, a chilling realization dawning on him. A strange feeling washed over him, the unsettling sense of having just brushed past his own destiny without knowing it. "Leo, are you okay?" Sophie gripped his hand, looking up with concern at her brother, who seemed to be in a trance. "Yeah, I'm fine." Leo managed a weak smile and sank heavily onto the sofa. He didn't even notice that Sophie's hand was sticky and smelled faintly of buttercream. To be certain there was no mistake, Leo quickly activated his system's ability, carefully examining his mother and two sisters. After reviewing the detailed information for all three, he froze, completely dumbfounded. Whether it was blood type, family relations, or birth year, he had no connection to this family whatsoever. Any lingering doubt Leo might have had vanished. The system's analysis confirmed it. He wasn't a part of this family. Just then, David walked in with the last dish and placed it carefully on the dining table. His eyes swept over the people sitting there, and his heart sank as he felt the suffocating tension in the room. He didn't break the silence immediately. Instead, his gaze settled on Leo. After watching him for a few seconds, his face broke into the same kind and gentle smile as always. "All right, whatever it is, let's talk after we eat. It's Leo's birthday. Let's celebrate first," David said warmly, his voice firm and reassuring. He hoped to ease the tension, even just for a little while, so they could enjoy the meal. Hearing their father's words, the three siblings stood up, their faces still etched with worry, and went to the kitchen to wash their hands. The room was thick with a heavy, delicate atmosphere, each person wrestling with their own anxieties. "David, the day finally came," Sharon whispered to her husband, her eyes red. "It's okay. It'll be okay," David said, patting her shoulder with gentle resolve. Dinner was an agonizing affair. His parents and sisters barely ate, their eyes fixed on Leo, gauging his every reaction. Even with his now high emotional intelligence, Leo, who never liked to be a wet blanket, especially around his family, couldn't hide his shock. He picked at his food, his mind replaying the scene in the elevator over and over. That girl looked about Sophie's age. If he wasn't mistaken, she was probably... No, she was his biological sister. Otherwise, why would she have called him brother? After they had finished what little they could eat, his parents didn't clear the table. They had the kids sit on the sofa, intending to lay out the whole story from beginning to end. Riley had already heard it and had no interest in a repeat performance. She clung to Leo's arm, snuggling smugly against his side. Sophie, however, leaned in, her ears perked, afraid to miss a single detail. Leo, hearing the story of his own past for the first time, wore an expression of grave shock from start to finish. "So, they were here to take me back?" Leo asked after they finished, his eyes instinctively glancing at the cake in the trash. That cake had been bought by his biological sister, Cassandra Sterling. But after David had shown them the door, Sophie had immediately shoved it into the trash can and, for good measure, punched it twice. The ferocious look on her face had made even Riley shudder. "Yes, they said I could name my price, as long as I was willing to let you go back and live with them," David said, deciding there was no point in hiding anything anymore. "Anyway, Leo, no matter what you decide, your mother and I will respect your choice. If you want to go live with them, you could just come visit us and your sisters when you have time. If you don't want to, then you can stay here with us, and things will go on just like before." 1. Who's Leo Shepard? Call me Leo Sterling. My dad is the richest man in the state. I'm going back to him to live the high life. Why would I keep making these stupid movies? Not recommended too. Wait a minute, Dad. You spent 30 grand to get me, which means you must have really wanted son. So how come I never felt that growing up? Strongly recommended 3. Go back? For what? Whoever raised me is my dad. Though I admit, I wouldn't mind going back for one thing. To land a couple of punches on that deadbeat boomer who couldn't take responsibility. Recommended option 2 analysis. Can both alleviate the current oppressive atmosphere and, in a joking manner, signal to everyone that the past no longer matters. Wait a minute, Dad. You said you spent 30 grand on me back then because you wanted someone to take over the family business. That means you really wanted a son, right? Leo asked with feigned surprise. But growing up, I never got the feeling you favored me over the girls. A few times I even suspected I wasn't your biological son. And what do you know, I was right. His parents and sisters stared at him, stunned. They exchanged glances, and then, as the realization dawned, their faces broke into unexpected smiles. "Ah, you kidder. Haven't we been good enough to you?" Laughter began to fill the room, like a warm spring breeze blowing away the oppressive, tense atmosphere. Sharon laughed through her tears, her eyes crinkling into slits. She squeezed her husband's hand and complained good-naturedly. "Exactly, you little punk. Your father, and I even have a down payment for your house, and everything saved up. How is that not good enough?" David laughed along with them, his weathered face glowing with happiness. At that moment, the room was filled with the sound of cheerful chatter. The warm, lively atmosphere was a profound relief. Only Leo's smile remained a little forced, his eyes still flickering toward the cake in the trash can. Noticing his glance, Sophie took advantage of the cheerful mood, got up, pulled the plastic bag out of the bin, cake and all, and moved it to the corner by the front door. Then she clasped her hands together and smiled sweetly. All right, dinner's over. Time to cut the cake for the birthday boy." After cake, Leo slowly made his way back to his room. He stood silently in the middle of the floor, his gaze sweeping over every corner. The familiar furniture, the neatly arranged belongings, the geek culture figurines. These things had been his constant companions for countless days and nights, but now they stirred an indescribable feeling within him. Leo took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm in his mind. This room had witnessed every stage of his growth, yet now he discovered that the parents he had lived with for over 20 years weren't his own. The fact hit him like a sledgehammer, shattering his perception of the world and his own emotional landscape. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly out the window as his thoughts churned. He recalled all the little moments with his parents, their warm smiles, their concerned questions, and the innocent, childish faces of his 2 sisters. All of it now felt both familiar and strangely distant. Of course, he felt no hatred or longing for his biological family, with their immense power and wealth. He wasn't going to act like some character in a novel, hell-bent on a dramatic, soul-crushing confrontation with his birth parents. For the Leo of the past and the Leo of now, the people who raised him were his real parents. The gift of their upbringing was more important than anything else. The only feeling he had now was curiosity. He was curious about the life of his tycoon father, the daily routine of his biological sister. The 3 of them in the elevator today had definitely recognized him. He could see the guilt in their eyes. If he were to actually insert himself into their lives and their family, it would likely trigger a chain reaction, affecting 2 entire households. Leo didn't want his personal situation to drag these two already conflicted families into an endless spiral of drama. So, for now, the best course of action was to not interfere, to act as if nothing had happened, and to continue living his life as usual. I've written so much of this melodramatic crap, I can't believe it came back to bite me, Leo muttered, lying on his bed with a wry, helpless smile. You spend your life taming hawks, only to get your eyes pecked out by one. Hey, don't push me. The declaration was followed by a noisy scuffle outside his door. A moment later, with a soft click, the door was shoved open. Riley stumbled into the room, having been given a hard shove by Sophie. The two sisters, tussling in the doorway, had expressions of mingled curiosity and nervousness as their eyes landed on Leo. Are you two still 5 years old? Leo looked at the two innocent-looking girls, a helpless, bitter smile on his face. It felt like they would never grow up. Leo, Riley kept saying she wanted to go for a walk in the park nearby, Sophie said, trotting over with light steps and sitting primly on the edge of his bed. Let's all go. It'll help you clear your head. I said no such thing. Sophie, stop using me as your excuse. You're the one who wants to go. Yup, I do. What's wrong, Riley? You're not coming. Just as Riley was about to retort, Sophie flopped expectantly into Leo's arms. Then it'll just be me and Leo. You can stay here and help Mom clean. I never said I wasn't going. Riley corrected hastily, her fists clenched. That little sneak, she thought, always pushing me out front to take the heat. Sophie feigned a look of confused curiosity. Huh? 1 minute you want to go, the next you don't. What's up with you, Riley? You. Riley was so flustered by her cunning sister that she was blushing with a mix of shame and anger. Finally, exasperated, she lunged at Sophie, and the two began to wrestle playfully in Leo's blankets. The sound of their silver bell laughter echoed through the bedroom. Leo watched them with a mixture of helplessness and affection. The small bed creaked under their combined antics, and the faint, fresh scent of their shampoo drifted around him. The sisters seemed completely unconcerned about how much skin they were showing or how close they were getting in front of him, tumbling over each other without a care in the world. Their fair-skinned bodies, clad in light summer clothes, tangled together in a scene that was both sensual and heartwarming. Wait, a thought struck him. Since they're not related to me by blood, doesn't that mean? Leo stared at the wrestling sisters, the realization hitting him with the force of a physical blow. Before, when they horsed around in his room, he'd only ever felt annoyed and would angrily kick them out. But now, connecting the image of these two blossoming young women with the fact that they shared none of his DNA, a restless energy stirred within him. I wonder if they've known this all along. On a strange impulse, Leo activated his system's ability, enhanced by the recent upgrade, and focused on both sisters at once. A second later, their data popped up, and Leo nearly coughed up a lung. Sophie Shepard's affinity for host, 100. Affinity cannot be increased further. She already considers you the most important person in her life. Riley Shepard's affinity for host, 80. Please continue your efforts. Sophie Shepard's affinity for Riley Shepard, 60. Please continue your efforts. Riley Shepard's affinity for Sophie Shepard, 40. Please continue your efforts. Leo knew the girls had a bit of a brother complex, but these affinity scores were ridiculous. Especially Sophie's. It was even higher than Chloe's. He'd never tried to win her over. He'd always just treated her like his little sister. If her affinity is that high, then does that mean? Ugh, get a grip, Leo, you scumbag. He berated himself, shaking his head fiercely. What the hell are you thinking at a time like this? Even if they weren't related by blood, they had lived under the same roof for more than a decade. How could he even think about crossing that line? Little punk, see if you try that again. Before long, Riley had Sophie pinned by the waist, straddling her as Sophie begged for mercy, her heavy breaths audible. Sophie was quick with her words, but she was no match for her athletic older sister. Leo, she's hitting me. Sophie, pinned beneath Riley, craned her pale neck and cried out for help in a pitiful voice. Oh, so now you're a tattletale. Riley, triumphant, gave her sister's backside a victorious pat. Seriously, can you two act normal for once? The sensual scene made Leo blush. He quickly pushed the two girls away. Get off, get off. Can't you see I'm trying to deal with stuff here? What is there to deal with? Sophie wriggled out from under her sister and crawled over to Leo, her fair legs tucked under her in a W-sit. She hugged his arm and whined. You write this kind of melodramatic stuff in your novels all the time, right? What's the big deal? Just ignore that other family. The 5 of us living a good life together is what's important. Her words sounded oddly familiar. Leo looked at his little sister in surprise. He didn't know if it was intentional or not, but after their scuffle, Sophie hadn't straightened out her messy clothes. From his angle, he could see a tantalizing sliver of pale skin. A fleeting smile crossed Sophie's face. She hugged his arm tighter and scooted closer, blinking her innocent eyes. "So, are we going or not, Leo? It's not like you have anything else to do this afternoon." "Oh, get off. It's too hot." Mindful of her maxed-out affinity score, Leo feigned composure and calmly pulled his arm from her grasp. "Fine, fine. I'll take you for a walk, then I'm heading out." "Yay. I'm gonna go change into something cooler." "This outfit is a little thick," Sophie mumbled, instinctively tugging at her collar to fan herself. Then she shot her head up, catching Leo's gaze just as he was looking. "Ahem. This weather is so white. I mean hot." "It's really hot," Leo said, quickly averting his eyes, thinking to himself that this girl was as cunning as she was torturous. "It is hot. It's 95 degrees today," Sophie replied with a cheerful smile, graciously giving him an out so he wouldn't be embarrassed. Humming a happy little tune, she skipped back to her room. "You're still here? What are you doing on my bed?" Leo asked, looking at Riley, who was sitting on the edge, staring at him blankly. They held each other's gaze for a few seconds before Riley suddenly snapped. "You're such a perv, old man." Leo's face flushed. "What? Why are you insulting me?" "Oof. You know what you did." Riley turned her head away with a huff, her neat ponytail swinging with emotion. Her cheeks were faintly pink as she left the room. "Damn it, the second you find out you're not blood-related, you can't control yourself, can you?" Leo thought, his heart pounding. He hurried to the bathroom, stood at the sink, and turned on the faucet, letting the cold water splash over his face. As the chill seeped into his skin, bringing with it a sense of clarity, Leo gradually calmed down. He muttered to himself with grim determination, "I have to deal with the elf princess situation first, anyway." Not far from the apartment complex was a quiet and scenic park. Leo had brought Chloe here on her first visit to his parents' place, and they'd spent a long time taking sweet pictures together. This time, however, he was here with his two cute and playful sisters, and it felt different. It wasn't that he'd never gone out with them before. Quite the contrary. Back when he was a homebody, Sophie would often drag him out shopping. The main difference was that today, knowing they weren't related by blood, his entire perspective had shifted. Even while walking, with a sister on each arm, Leo found himself subconsciously reaching for their waists, making both girls blush bright red several times. In his subconscious, he had already started treating them as young women. The heat today was oppressive, the sun beating down as if trying to scorch the earth. Once they got to the park, Sophie went to the convenience store in the center to buy drinks. Leo, seeking refuge from the heat, ducked into a gazebo. Riley, on the other hand, couldn't sit still. She saw a group of kids on the lawn running around with colorful kites, trying to get them airborne. So, she bought a kite herself and, without a second thought, joined them. When she finally got it flying high, she even had Leo take pictures and videos for her. Riley had always been a vibrant, energetic person. Within minutes, she was one of the gang. Her kite-flying skills were impressive, and soon she was surrounded by the kids, having naturally become their leader. Leo sat quietly in the gazebo, watching the happy scene from a distance. A warm feeling spread through his chest, and the corners of his mouth turned up. He remembered when she was little, just like those kids, always trailing behind him, getting into mischief. Then, inevitably, the thought popped into his head again. She's not my sister. His gaze inexplicably settled on Riley's healthy, athletic figure. As a former athlete, Riley was more built than her sister. Back in high school, she had already toned her body to near perfection, even sporting a six-pack. She had proudly posted it on her social media, demanding that Leo like and comment, wanting him to praise her. Back then, he had found her incredibly annoying. He commented something like, "show-off tomboy," which made her so mad she didn't speak to him for days. Sophie later told him she'd cried herself to sleep in her room. Looking back now, Leo realized how stupid he'd been. The girl was so straightforward, a few nice words would have had her wrapped around his finger. Why'd he have to be such a jerk? The answer was simple. Back then, he truly saw her as his sister. With your closest family, you never think about the consequences of your words, especially when he was still in his goblin phase. But now, just then, Riley came running back to the gazebo, kite in hand, her face glistening with sweat. "Hey, old man," she asked eagerly, "did you get a video of my kite when it was flying so high?" "Got it," Leo said, playing the video he'd just recorded. Riley watched for a moment, then frowned. "What is this? Where's the kite? Why were you filming me the whole time?" "Forgot." Leo shrugged, completely unapologetic. Then he grinned. "But I think filming you is way more interesting than filming a kite." Ding. Riley Shepard's affinity for host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 85. Please continue your efforts. Such a smooth talker. You don't think that'll make me happy? Riley huffed defiantly, burying her head to fiddle with the kite string as if to appear unfazed. However, the slight upward curve of her lips and the joy sparkling in her eyes betrayed her true feelings. The sunlight bathed her face, illuminating a shy, happy smile that seemed to make the whole world brighter. Leo was a little surprised himself. Was he actually finding this rough-and-tumble girl cute? Was he losing his mind? Studying her for a moment, he realized she was genuinely beautiful. Riley was wearing a loose, short-sleeve button-up in a light, fresh color, made of breathable cotton that kept her cool. Below, she wore a pair of stylish shorts that showed off her toned, tan legs, paired with simple sandals that were both fashionable and practical. Most importantly, she was completely makeup-free. She'd never used cosmetics in her life. For Riley, buying a basketball or a few $100s worth of in-game currency was a much better investment than buying what she called useless powders and creams. The only reason he'd never noticed how attractive his sisters were was because he had always seen them as just that, sisters. A mental or moral block had prevented him from ever thinking of them in any other way. Now that the blood relation barrier was gone, he could look at her properly and see that, yes, she was actually quite pretty. Her only flaw, perhaps, was that she was a bit of a tomboy, lacking the demure, ladylike quality of other girls. She was also quick to resort to physical force. Leo had been on the receiving end of her roughhousing more times than he could count. But in today's complex world, most guys found her type, the outgoing, friendly, one of the guys' girl, to be more appealing. And now, seeing her shyly trying to hide her pleasure gave her an unexpected, adorable charm. After a few seconds of silence, Riley peeked up at Leo. When she saw him watching her, she quickly looked away again, pretending to be busy. "Riley," Leo said, a smile in his voice. It was the first time he had ever used her actual name like that, not a nickname. "W," she answered gruffly, trying to hide her flustered state. "Nothing. Just wanted to say your name," Leo teased patiently. He'd managed to conquer the textbook-perfect Chloe. There was no way he couldn't handle this girl. "Weirdo," Riley muttered, rolling her eyes as she continued to untangle the kite string, her pretty face visibly reddening. "Riley," he called again, his voice now laced with a playful, flirtatious tone. "What do you want?" Riley lifted her blushing face, glaring at him with a mix of shyness and irritation. "Why is your face so red? Are you—" "Whoa." Before Leo could finish, Riley smacked his arm in frustration. "What's wrong with you? You keep calling my name but not saying anything." Riley complained, her face beet red. But when she saw the red mark on his arm, her anger immediately dissipated, replaced by a pang of regret. She reached out and began to rub the spot. "Does it hurt? What do you think?" Leo shot her a look. Thankfully, his physical stats were high enough that he could take the hit. This girl, with her athletic training, packed a punch nearly as strong as a grown man's. Anyone else would have been yelping in pain. "Oomph. Serves you right. You've been bullying me my whole life, only ever caring about Sophie," Riley grumbled, bringing up old grievances. But her hand never stopped gently rubbing his arm. "Now that you know we're not related, are you going to bully me even more?" 1. Use the head pat. Don't be silly. Even if we're not related by blood, you're both important to me. Strongly recommended. 2. Lecture her seriously. What do you expect? You were always getting into trouble as a kid. Sophie wasn't disobedient like you. It's only natural she got more attention from Mom, Dad, and me. Not recommended. 3. Ask in mock horror. How did you know I was planning to bully you even more? Recommended. Option 1 analysis. A simple, affectionate gesture often has a powerful, doting effect on girls who act tough but are soft on the inside. Don't be silly. Leo gently stroked Riley's silky hair, his eyes full of deep affection. He said earnestly, "Even if we're not related by blood, you're both important to me." The childish gesture, like praising a small child, made Riley freeze. Her eyes flickered with shyness, and her trembling lips parted as if she wanted to say something. Her adult mind told her to resist the silly gesture, but deep down, she craved the affectionate attention. This kind, caring version of Leo was one she'd only seen when they were very young. After a moment, as if she'd made up her mind, she bit her lip shyly. Her gaze darted around nervously, her eyelashes fluttering rapidly, betraying the turmoil in her heart. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, Riley closed her eyes, braced her hands on the stone bench of the gazebo, and leaned forward slightly, as if she were about to gently headbutt him. Leo's breath caught in his throat. When had this girl become so damn cute? Noticing he'd stopped, Riley opened her eyes again, looking at him with a shy, nervous expression. After a few seconds, her trembling gaze shifted to the side, and her hands, still braced on the bench, clenched into fists. She mumbled in a tiny voice, "Aren't you going to keep going? You're so old, but you're still so childish. Even kindergartners don't like being babied like this anymore," Leo said with an affectionate smile. Despite his teasing words, he placed his hand back on her head and began to gently ruffle her hair again. Riley pouted and glanced at him. Seeming to understand that protesting would mean the end of the head pats, she just gave a reluctant little huff. Ding! Riley Shepard's affinity for host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 90. Please continue your efforts. Leo smiled to himself. His hand slid from her head to her flushed cheek, stroking it gently. Riley, your face is really red. Are you hot? Riley's eyes widened as she stared at him, unsure why his actions had suddenly become so intimate. Her smooth cheek burned under his touch, as if she could feel the heat of her own nervous excitement. What are you two doing? Just as Leo was about to say something more, Sophie appeared at the entrance to the gazebo, holding a bag of cold drinks. Her eyebrows twitched as she took in the intimate scene, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes plastered on her pretty face. The old man was getting a bug out of my hair. Riley stammered, shoving Leo away in a panic. She shot to her feet reflexively, looking like a mistress caught in the act. It was a terrible excuse. Riley had never been afraid of anything in her life. This was a girl who would casually put a toad in her pocket. There was no way she was afraid of a bug. Leo, on the other hand, wasn't nearly as flustered. He leaned back against the railing, looking innocently at the approaching Sophie. He was already drowning in it. What was one more drop? Besides, the sisters knew he was a player. He didn't even bother trying to explain. "Oh, is that so?" Sophie said with a convincing smile, acting as if she bought it completely. She took the plastic bag of drinks and wedged herself right between them, physically separating the two who had been sitting so close. "It's so hot out," she said earnestly. "You shouldn't sit so close together. What if you get heat stroke?" Leo rolled his eyes. "If you know it's hot, why are you squeezing in between us?" Riley backed him up, protesting stubbornly. Yeah. Boys and girls should keep their distance." Sophie brushed him off with a clever retort. "I'm an Aquarius. I was born with a natural air conditioning body. Aren't I doing you a favor by cooling you down?" Riley scoffed. "Give me a break. You could apply those horoscope traits to a dog, and some of them would stick." Leo chimed in, "Exactly. I don't believe in horoscopes either. Geminis are naturally skeptical." "Ha ha. That's enough, old man. You don't believe me?" Seeing her brother and sister laughing, not taking her seriously, Sophie lifted her skirt to reveal her pale thigh and, without warning, pressed Leo's hand against it. "Well, does it feel cool or not?" Sophie's skin was as smooth and flawless as jade, and it radiated a startling coolness. The moment his fingers touched her thigh, Leo felt a refreshing chill that seemed to cut through the summer heat, making him feel instantly more comfortable. But Leo was also a hopeless leg man. In that moment, he shamelessly gave her thigh a little squeeze, causing the inexperienced Sophie's face to flush crimson. Sophie, what are you doing?" Riley stared in disbelief at Leo's hand resting on Sophie's milky white thigh, her mind reeling. What was even more unbelievable was that he had just squeezed it. "You pervert!" Riley's mortified and furious voice snapped Leo back to his senses. He snatched his hand back, his face burning. What does this have to do with me? I'm the victim here." "Bullshit. You squeezed it. Apologize to my sister right now," Riley yelled, her own face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and jealousy. Leo denied it vehemently. "I'll sue you for slander." "Which eye did you see that with?" "I saw it with both of them, you horny creep." Riley, mortified and fuming with jealousy, started pummeling Leo with her fists. I'm sorry." Leo scrambled to his feet, dodging her blows with a sheepish grin. Sophie, meanwhile, calmly smoothed out her skirt, her expression unreadable as she watched her brother and sister chasing each other around the gazebo. The sunlight streamed in, illuminating her brother's handsome face and her sister's pretty one. They ran and laughed, as if time had left no mark on them. Sophie sat quietly to the side, her eyes growing distant as she was transported back in time. It was just like when she was little, always trailing behind these two, living a carefree childhood under their protection. The sweet memories flooded her mind, and a nostalgic, loving smile spread across her face. A warm, familiar feeling filled her heart. If only things could stay like this forever, Sophie murmured to herself. But within seconds, her indecision hardened into firm resolve. They definitely can. The three of them wandered around until about 4 in the afternoon. Leo then decided to drop the girls off at home before heading over to Chloe's to celebrate his birthday properly. I'll head over around 5. Are we eating at your place or going out? At home. Maya and I have a ton of food ready. We'll start as soon as you get here. My stomach is empty. I'll be ready to devour everything you've made. Okay, sounds good. Maya can't handle the kitchen alone, so I'm going to go help her now. After ending the video call with Chloe, Leo noticed that Riley and Sophie were both looking at him sullenly. Why don't you go later? Sophie whined. You see her every day anyway. What, a few more hours? Riley added grumpily. Exactly. I took the day off specifically to celebrate your birthday. And you're just going to have one meal and leave? Brothers before hoes, you know. Hey, you guys have to cut me some slack, Leo said with a weary smile. I'd love to stay and hang out with you, but your sister-in-law already has dinner ready. What kind of guy would I be if I didn't show up? Sister-in-law? Which sister-in-law are we talking about? Chloe Miller or Lily Reed? Sophie asked, her face devoid of expression. She was clearly getting angry. She'd always held a deep-seated prejudice against Chloe, and her words made it clear she had no intention of accepting her as Leo's partner. Don't put me on the spot, Leo said with an awkward laugh, completely helpless against her. Riley shot him a glare. Player, you got a full plate, and you're still looking at the menu. Leo just buried his head like an ostrich, wishing he could get these two frustrating girls home faster. Leo, let me ask you a question. Since we're not related by blood anymore. As they neared the apartment complex, Sophie saw Riley's gloomy face and Leo's eagerness to leave. An idea struck her. She hugged his arm and asked with a bright smile, hypothetically, just hypothetically, if Mom and Dad were okay with it, and you had to choose between me and Riley to be your girlfriend, who would you pick? 1. Definitely your sister. Besides sports, she's clueless about everything else. How could I ever feel at ease letting her navigate life alone? Not recommended 2. Definitely you. Your sister is so rough and tough. Any guy who married her would end up as her personal punching bag. Recommended 3. I'll take both. Only kids have to choose. I choose both. I can't trust either of you with anyone else, so you might as well just stick with me. I can take care of you forever. Strongly recommended option 3 analysis. Given the lack of blood ties, choosing one will always hurt the other. Why not be bold for once? Well now, Leo let his gaze drift thoughtfully between his sister's pretty faces. Riley watched him, nervous and hopeful. When his deliberating eyes fell on her, she shied away, pretending to be completely indifferent. Sophie, on the other hand, made no effort to hide her anticipation. She clung to his arm like a doting girlfriend, her eyes wide and shining as she waited for his answer. Only kids have to choose. I'll take both, Leo declared with a grand wave of his hand. He took both of their soft hands in his and promised, I can't trust either of you with anyone else, so you might as well just stick with me. As long as you're both willing, I can take care of you forever. Ding! Riley Shepard's affinity for host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 95. Please continue your efforts. Ding! Sophie Shepard's affinity for host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 100. Affinity cannot be increased further. She already considers you the most important person in her life. Leo, you're such a player. Sophie's eyes sparkled as she teased him, grinning from ear to ear. No wonder they say show business is a mess. I'll take both. Who do you think you are, Santa Claus? Clearly, she wasn't upset by his answer. In fact, it seemed to be an unexpectedly perfect response. As much as she liked Leo, she didn't want to hurt Riley for her own selfish reasons. Yeah, totally. So sleazy. Riley scoffed, but her fingers playfully intertwined with Leo's. She seemed pretty satisfied with the answer, too. She didn't want to sacrifice her relationship with her brother or her sister. In that case, maybe I won't take either of you, Leo said, playing hard to get as he let go of their hands. That way you can't call me a player later, or go tattling to Mom and Dad. I'd like to live a few more years, thanks. No way. You can't take back what you said, Sophie said, grabbing his hand again. She turned to Riley with a grin. Right, Riley? All right. Encouraged by her sister, Riley, for once, didn't act aloof. She bravely took Leo's hand, her face crimson as she looked at the ground and mumbled, a man of his word. Can't go back on a promise. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting a little too intimate, and they were almost at his parents' building, Leo feigned awkwardness. Isn't this a little inappropriate? If a neighbor or, God forbid, his parents saw them like this, he'd really need a restraining order and a therapy session. He was trying to signal that the game was over, or rather, that he couldn't be so blatant about things right now. Sophie got the hint and let go of his arm. She knew she couldn't be with him officially just yet. She still had to deal with the other troublesome women in his life, especially Chloe. The three of them arrive at his BMW in the parking garage. Leo reached out and ruffled Riley's hair, telling her gently, "Riley, when Mom, Dad, and I aren't home, you're the oldest. You have to take good care of your sister. You hear me?" Riley hummed shyly, a happy smile on her face as she enjoyed his head pat. She had no idea why she liked such a childish gesture so much. "Miju, Miju." Sophie immediately squeezed in next to her sister, lifting her chin proudly and demanding her turn. "You goofball," Leo chided affectionately, ruffling her hair as well. Even though he'd learned today that they weren't his biological sisters, the way he treated them hadn't changed. The only difference was that now, in his mind, they were both his precious little sisters and, at the same time, girls he couldn't bear to let go of. Since he was already this much of a player, how could he possibly give them up to some other guy? Just like his answer to her question, as long as they were willing, he would take care of them forever. After chatting for a few more minutes, Leo got in his car and drove away. The sisters stood at the entrance of the complex, watching his BMW disappear down the road. A calm smile played on Sophie's lips as she spoke, her tone even and determined. "Riley, do you want to be with Leo in the future?" "Yes," Riley answered without a moment's hesitation. Then, seeing the all-knowing smile on her sister's face, she added defensively, "Don't get the wrong idea. The old man is loaded now. I just don't want to have to get a job. If I'm with him, I'll never have to worry about money." "Good enough," Sophie said, seeing right through her but choosing not to call her out. She was used to her sister's habit of saying the opposite of what she meant. "Sophie, are you really going to go up against Chloe?" Riley asked nervously, seeing the determined look in her sister's eyes. "I'm afraid if you really manage to drive her away, the old man will resent you for the rest of his life." Sophie tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and smiled. "When did I ever say I was going to drive her away? But you said before that I wasn't allowed to compete with you, and that you're going to get Chloe away from him," Riley reminded her earnestly. "Getting her away is one thing, but I'm not the one who's going to do it. I'm not that stupid. Then what's your plan?" Riley had a feeling her deeply calculating sister had a formidable plan in the works. Now that Riley was on her side, Sophie saw no reason to keep her plans a secret. "Riley, you know the saying, when the snipe and the clam grapple, the fisherman profits, right?" Sophie took her sister's hand, hopping playfully from one paving stone to the next as she laid out a strategy far beyond her years. "I have Lily Reed's number, right? All I need to do is find an opportunity behind the scenes to make sure she and Chloe meet. Unless they're willing to share, they'll definitely break up with him over his cheating. Then, when he's vulnerable, I'll swoop in to comfort him, and I'll get everything I want." "Oh," Riley murmured, a conflicted feeling stirring inside her. She was too kind-hearted to come up with a plan to hurt someone like that, especially since she had a decent impression of Chloe. And she didn't want to see her brother heartbroken. "Riley, don't overthink it, and don't worry," Sophie said, patting her sister's shoulder reassuringly as they reached the elevator. "I'll be the bad guy. All you have to do is reap the benefits. Besides, it's not like I haven't swooped in on him when he was vulnerable before," Sophie added silently to herself. After saying goodbye to his clingy sisters, Leo drove his car into the Timeless Impressions apartment complex. A light rain had begun to fall, casting a gloomy pall over the city. "Chloe," Leo called out as he reached the front door, knocking lightly. There was no answer. Remembering that Chloe had said she was preparing a huge feast, he figured she and Maya must have gone out to buy something and weren't back yet. He took out his keys and let himself in. The moment he pushed the door open, he was met with darkness. The entire apartment was pitch black, as if veiled by a mysterious shroud. "Guess they really are out," Leo said, flicking on the lights. He casually tossed his keys and wallet onto the living room table and stretched as he headed for the sofa. Just as he reached it, two long-haired figures leaped out from behind the couch. Pop! Pop! Two party poppers went off with a loud bang, making Leo jump. Colorful confetti rained down on him. "Happy birthday!" Chloe and Maya shouted joyfully, holding the empty poppers. Leo stood there for a second, stunned, before realizing his girlfriend and her best friend had planned a surprise for him. A warm feeling spread through his chest. Hee, Leo the pig, surprised? Weren't expecting that. Were you? Chloe asked with a grin. Definitely surprised, but in a good way. Thanks, you guys, Leo said sincerely. Chloe wrinkled her nose and, mimicking his tone, shook her little fist at him. Hey, none of that. You're my boyfriend. What's with the thanks? If you thank me again, I'll punch you. Haha, all right, Leo agreed, amused and exasperated. No wonder people said that the longer a couple was together, the more they started to act like each other. It was actually true. Okay, enough with the lovey-dovey stuff, Maya said, patting Chloe on the butt. Chloe, go get the cake. Okay, I'll go get it, Chloe said, walking around the sofa toward the kitchen. She added proudly, Leo the pig, Maya, and I made this cake ourselves, you know. You made it yourselves? Leo asked with a skeptical smile. Is it even edible? Are you kidding me? Chloe shot back haughtily as she disappeared into the kitchen, leaving the once noisy living room suddenly quiet. It was just Leo and Maya. They looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. The second Chloe was out of sight, Maya eagerly hooked her arm around Leo's neck, pulled him close, and planted a firm kiss on his lips. Her eyes were burning with intensity as she whispered, happy birthday, Daddy. Did you like the video I sent you? Maya, the cake is kinda heavy. Come help me. Chloe's voice from the kitchen made both of them jump. They scrambled apart. Maya quickly gave Leo another peck on the lips. As she passed him, she playfully slapped his butt and shot him a mischievous, flirty smile before running off to the kitchen in her fluffy slippers. Leo just shook his head with a helpless smile. None of his girlfriends were easy to handle. They moved the dining table into the center of the spacious living room, and the two friends brought out one delicious dish after another. Chloe's cooking skills were abysmal. She rarely set foot in a kitchen and could barely hold a spatula. Maya was the complete opposite. Because of her family situation, she'd learned to cook at a young age, so most of the food on the table was her handiwork. After setting out several home-cooked dishes, Chloe brought out a large cake and placed it in the center, using Leo's lighter to ignite the flickering candles. Leo the pig, make a wish, Chloe said, placing a birthday crown on his head and plopping down next to him. The faint candlelight illuminated her beautiful face, which was beaming with happiness. All right, I'll make one, Leo said, clasping his hands together and silently making a wish as he stared at the dancing flames. The two girls watched him, their eyes sparkling with joy and satisfaction. Chloe turned and noticed the rain outside was getting heavier, drumming against the window pane with increasing intensity. In stark contrast to the roaring downpour, the room was filled with a quiet, warm atmosphere that felt incredibly comfortable and safe. The soft, dim lighting cast a gentle glow on everything, creating a sense of peace and a happiness that was hard to put into words. This is so nice, Chloe murmured contentedly. Her best friend, who was like a sister to her, and the boyfriend she loved, all of them happily eating together in one room. It didn't get any better than this. Okay, I'm done. Let's cut the cake, Leo said, taking off the crown and picking up the plastic knife. Leo the pig, tell me what you wish for, Chloe said, her eyes wide with anticipation. Leo handed her a slice of cake and couldn't resist being a little cheeky. I wish for 3 more wishes. You're too much. You're terrible, both girls laughed. Chloe playfully slapped his arm. Come on, tell me. It's nothing, really, Leo said with a smile. Just that I hope you and your best friend stay happy and healthy, and that you get more and more beautiful with better and better figures. Really? I shouldn't have asked. Now that you've said it out loud, it won't come true, Chloe pouted, subconsciously pinching her waist. No wonder I've gained a few pounds lately. Why did you have to say it? Leo was speechless. You were the one who wanted him to say it, and now you're the one telling him he shouldn't have. It must be tough being your boyfriend, Chloe, Maya teased with a grin, clearly pleased with the wish. Besides, who's the one who's been lying in bed, eating snacks all day? Was I? Chloe asked defiantly. Leo the pig, is it hard being my boyfriend? She gets me. It really is, Leo said, looking at Maya with a newfound sense of camaraderie. You've been Chloe's best friend for so many years. We're both in the same boat. Maybe we should just get together. Okay. Maya nodded eagerly, her breathing quickening with excitement. Leo the pig. Chloe fumed, pummeling him with her fists. Even though she knew they were joking, she couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. After finishing the lavish meal, Chloe patted her slightly bulging stomach contentedly. As usual, she complained about how much she'd eaten, then quickly recovered her good mood and took out her phone to take a few pictures to commemorate the occasion. Leo the pig, Maya, look at the camera. Chloe stood up, adjusted the angle and lighting, and framed the shot to include the cake, her boyfriend, and her best friend. Cheese. Maya wasn't one to miss an opportunity like this. She draped one fair arm over Leo's shoulder, leaned her head against his, her hair gently brushing his neck, and made a cute little salute with her other hand. The pose was intimate, suggesting a relationship that was more than just friends. If Chloe hadn't been the one taking the picture, anyone would have mistaken them for a couple. Cheese, Leo said, nervously scratching his nose. He gave a half-hearted thumbs up and a polite, neutral smile, hoping Chloe wouldn't notice anything amiss. Sure enough, Maya's pose was a little too close for comfort. Chloe stared at the photo, a thoughtful expression on her face, the seeds of suspicion beginning to sprout. But then she remembered that her best friend had always been this outgoing and affectionate, so she dismissed the thought and complained with a hint of jealousy. "Why does it look like you two are the couple? Move over. Let's take another one." Chloe fluffed her hair and sat down between them, puffing out her cheeks and flashing a peace sign next to her eye as she aimed the camera at the three of them. The moment Chloe pressed the shutter button, Leo leaned over and planted a kiss on her soft cheek. Chloe's face lit up with a sweet smile, while Maya feigned a look of shocked surprise, covering her mouth with her hand. The camera captured all, freezing the moment in time. That's more like it," Chloe said, nodding with satisfaction as she looked at the photo that perfectly captured their dynamic. Leo and Maya exchanged a knowing glance. Maya even gave him a playful wink, the meaning of which was clear. After a few more photos, the birthday dinner was over. Chloe and Maya presented Leo with their gifts. Chloe's was a black Casio G-Shock, one of the most popular gifts for guys she'd found after hours of scrolling through TikTok. After helping Leo unbox it, she insisted he put on immediately and snapped several pictures. Maya's gift was much more tailored to Leo's tastes. It was an old, worn-out mousepad with a strong, rubbery smell, clearly a relic from another era. But despite being old and dirty, it bore the authentic signature of the #1 League of Legends player in the world, Faker. Maya had pulled a lot of strings and paid a hefty price to buy it from a player in South Korea. Leo was visibly more excited about the mousepad than the watch. He immediately took pictures and videos and posted them to his social media, showing off to all his gaming buddies. "My dear Chloe, a bet's a bet," Maya said smugly, watching Leo admire the mousepad. "It's your turn to do the dishes tonight." Fine," Chloe muttered, a little disappointed. She hadn't expected a signed mousepad to have such a powerful effect on Leo. Of course, a bet was a bet, but after Leo left, the two friends were still laughing and talking as they did the dishes together in the kitchen. Without Leo in the picture, their friendship was as strong as ever. "Maya, days like this are so nice," Chloe said cheerfully, scrubbing a plate, her legs bouncing with energy. "Yeah, they really are," Maya agreed. Being away from her own toxic parents, living with her best friend and the guy she liked. It was a dream come true. "Maya, when are you going to introduce us to your boyfriend?" Chloe asked curiously. "I told you about Leo the day I met him. How come you've been dating this guy for so long and you won't let us meet him?" "Don't tell me you're actually having an affair with Leo," Chloe joked. "Is that why you won't introduce him to me?" Maya's hand stopped moving in the soapy water. She looked at Chloe with a calm expression and a faint smile. "When did you figure it out?" Chloe's smile froze on her face. It gradually stiffened, the radiant joy draining away, replaced by sheer shock and disbelief. Time seemed to stop. The room fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Chloe's eyes widened, filled with confusion, as if she were witnessing the end of the world. Meanwhile, Maya's expression remained placid. They stared at each other, each searching the other's eyes for some kind of explanation, but they only found more confusion. The tension in the air grew thick, pressing in on them from all sides. "You're joking again," Chloe said, breaking the awkward silence with a weak laugh as she went back to scrubbing the plate. But what if I'm not?" Maya's smile was playful, neither confirming nor denying. From the very beginning, she had been lobbing this topic at Chloe, testing her reaction. "Whatever. I don't care. If you want to throw yourself at him, I'm sure he'd be thrilled," Chloe said defiantly, though she didn't mean it. Then it's settled. If you're okay with it, what's there for me to object to?" Maya said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Your Leo is pretty great, but the main thing is I can't bear to leave you. We've been friends for so many years. Why should Leo get to come between that? Right, Chloe?" Chloe nodded vaguely. She couldn't deny their bond, and with Leo not there, she didn't have to worry about his feelings. "So, Chloe, from now on, let's have the three of us live together," Maya said, her eyes shining with excitement. As the conversation veered further into bizarre, unsettling territory, Chloe abruptly stopped washing the dishes. She stared at her best friend in disbelief. "Wait, seriously? Are you being serious right now?" I'm just kidding. Look at how nervous you are." Maya burst out laughing, waving her hand dismissively. "Haven't I always said I like older, more mature guys? Your Leo is a total kid. You're the only one who thinks he's a treasure." Maya had wanted to confess everything right then and there, but she knew the time wasn't right, and it was Leo's birthday. She had to swallow the words for now. Who said I think he's a treasure? Chloe retorted, not meaning it, a wave of relief washing over her. But what if Maya did have feelings for Leo? Or what if they had been seeing each other behind her back all this time? What would she do? On one side was her best friend of so many years. On the other, the guy she loved and would probably marry after graduation. She didn't want to give up either of them. You know, Chloe, have you ever stopped to think that what we were just talking about has already become a reality? Maya's voice was laced with a seductive ambiguity. Aside from me not making a move on your boyfriend, the three of us are already living together, aren't we? That's not the same thing as the joke we were just making, Chloe muttered, an uneasy feeling creeping into her heart. Her intuition was screaming that there was a secret between her best friend and her boyfriend. True, Maya conceded with a nod. She finished washing the last plate, dried her hands, and patted Chloe on the butt as she walked out to the living room. But you'd better keep a close eye on your boyfriend from now on. If you ever decide you don't want him, I wouldn't mind giving a shot. He's a little blunt, but he has his good points. Chloe stared at her best friends retreating back, the seed of suspicion in her mind growing into a monstrous weed. What kind of best friend makes jokes like that so openly? Chloe quickly dried her hands and ran to her room, grabbing her phone. She wanted to text Leo to probe his feelings about her best friend. She typed out a long paragraph, then, with a heavy heart, deleted it all. It felt like she would be hurting both of them with her accusations. Just then, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from her dorm roommate, Katie. Katie, Chloe, I saw your social media post just now. There's something I need to say, but I'm not sure if I should. Sweating emoji. It was Leo's birthday, and, as his girlfriend, Chloe had posted several heartwarming pictures of the celebration. The caption read, "Our piggy is 1 year older." The intimate caption, along with the cozy photos, had attracted a lot of attention, including from guys who had crushed on her in middle school and high school. Chloe had never officially announced that Leo was her boyfriend. These guys had always wondered who had stolen the heart of their dream girl. Now the truth was out. With the help of money and paid online promotion, Leo had become a hot topic on the internet lately. There were few young people who didn't know who he was. When they realized Chloe's boyfriend was the director working with A-list celebrities, they had to admit defeat. No wonder she'd never posted a clear picture of his face before. She didn't want him to be exposed as having a college beauty girlfriend at such a critical point in his career. Chloe_no_8 AMs. Yeah, what's up? Confused emoji. Katie, it's just. Do you think there's something strange going on with your best friend Maya and your boyfriend lately? I knew it, Chloe thought. So she wasn't the only one. Even her former roommate had noticed. But Katie had only met Leo a few times. How could she have seen it? Chloe replied cautiously. Strange how? I think everything's fine. What made you think something was wrong? Katie, it was your post just now. The picture of just Maya and Leo. Don't you think they look a little too close? What kind of best friend gets that close to her friend's boyfriend? Awkward smile emoji. Chloe quickly opened her social media profile and clicked on a photo of Maya and Leo. It was the first picture in the post, the first one she'd taken that night. She had her doubts at first, but she'd brushed them off, telling herself that was just Maya's unrestrained personality. Besides, she thought it was a good photo, and she wanted to show her friends and family that her best friend and boyfriend got along great, that there was no drama. But now, with Katie's words echoing in her mind, it was like a switch had been flipped. The more she looked at the photo, the more suspicious it seemed. As Chloe was staring at the picture, another message came from Katie. This time, she had sent back the photo with red circles drawn around their most intimate points of contact. Katie, I read this book on female psychology once. It said that when a girl has a secret crush on a guy, you can tell by all the little things she does when they're together. Katie, let's not even talk about her arm on his shoulder. That could just be for the photo. But did you notice that her legs are subconsciously leaning toward him too? Now that Katie pointed it out, Chloe saw it clearly. Maya's legs were indeed angled toward Leo. Her entire body was tilted in his direction. With these details in mind, Chloe's mind raced, replaying all their recent interactions. A woman's memory for such things is terrifyingly sharp. She could even remember the time they were buying socks, and Maya had leaned on Leo's legs while talking to her. Even if Maya's personality was that carefree, she should still maintain some boundaries with her best friend's boyfriend, right? Not only that, Chloe could now recall that whenever the three of them were talking, Maya would always be smiling at Leo, constantly fiddling with her hair. It was a classic tell, a detail only girls would know. When a girl wants to make a good impression on a guy, she'll subconsciously touch her hair. The more she does it, the more she cares about what he thinks. There were two main reasons, depending on her personality. 1, an introverted girl will be nervous around a guy she likes, and will use it as a way to mask her anxiety. 2, an outgoing girl, like Maya, will do it to show off her charm to the guy she's interested in. Putting Katie's message together with all the little inconsistencies she'd noticed about Maya and her boyfriend lately, Chloe completely panicked. She felt helpless and lost. Chloe understood, no one of her hams, but Maya's my best friend. We've known each other for so long. She wouldn't do something to hurt me, right? Katie the kitten. Chloe, have you forgotten how I met my first boyfriend here? Sweating emoji. Katie's first boyfriend at Portland State had been the class president's. She'd pried him away using a playbook of manipulative tactics provided by Maya, tearing them apart and snatching him for herself. At the time, the kind-hearted Chloe had tried to tell both Katie and Maya that it wasn't right, that other students would talk. But Chloe, innocent to the ways of the world, didn't understand just how ruthless most girls could be in that arena. So ruthless that even some of the most notorious players would have to tip their hats. What was that nonsense about preferring to be long-term friends rather than short-term lovers? Bullshit. That was just what you said when you hadn't met a guy you actually wanted. If a girl was willing to just be friends with a guy, it meant she didn't like him enough. The moment she found someone she truly desired, it wasn't an exaggeration to say she would fight for him, even if it meant snatching him away in broad daylight. And after she won, she'd rationalize it with a few choice phrases. I was just a little more proactive, that's all. What's the point of arguing? He chose me, not you. Maybe you should think about what you did wrong. Can't talk, he's picking up the pace. Though most girls would never admit it, this was the reality. That seemingly noble and polite sentiment was useless against the desires of most. In just 2 weeks, with Maya's help, Katie had successfully stolen the class president's boyfriend. Of course, a mere 2 weeks after that, the free-spirited Katie broke up with him and moved on to another, richer guy. Katie the kitten. But we don't have any real proof, so everything we're saying is just speculation. Chloe, don't take it too seriously. When I first met Leo, I thought he was a great guy. He doesn't seem like the type to cheat on you. There were 4 girls in Chloe's dorm room, 2 wild cards and a bookworm, with Chloe acting as the mediator. By all accounts, that kind of mix should have been a recipe for nonstop drama. But Chloe had always been sincere and kind, with a unique way of dealing with each of her roommates. Combined with her high emotional intelligence and excellent communication skills, she often played peacemaker among the other 3. 2 semesters were nearly over, and they hadn't had a single major blow-up. The 4 of them often watched shows together, chatted, and talked about their boyfriends. The atmosphere was surprisingly harmonious. Besides her best friend Maya, Chloe was well-liked and respected by her other 2 roommates. That was the main reason Katie was willing to risk a major fight with Maya to show Chloe the suspicious photo. Chloe _no_ams. Of course not. I trust them. They wouldn't do anything to hurt me. Smiling emoji. Katie the kitten. Yeah, maybe I'm just overthinking it. You and Maya have known each other for years. I don't think she'd use those kinds of tricks on you. Katie the kitten. So, let's just pretend this conversation never happened. Don't tell Maya, okay? I still want her to teach me how to pick up guys. Sarcastic emoji. Chloe _no_8ams. Ugh, you're such a player. Sarcastic emoji. Katie the kitten. Gotta go. See you on campus tomorrow. I know Leo wouldn't, but Chloe stared worriedly at the wall in front of her. Her best friend, Maya, was in the next room, the furious clatter of her keyboard filling the air. Listening to the rhythmic pounding, you'd think Maya was executing some impossibly complex maneuver in a high-stakes game. But having known Maya for years, Chloe knew instantly what it was. Her best friend was once again demonstrating her profound mastery of fluent gamer rage in a friendly exchange with her teammates. Maya wouldn't do it either, right? It was nearly 7 in the evening when Leo, driving through a torrential downpour, returned to Willow Creek Estates. He didn't go to his own villa. Instead, he took a different road, heading straight for Eleanor Hayes' residence. He was here to fulfill his promise to the little heiress. All this time, Leo had no idea that the 2 disaster zones he thought he'd managed so perfectly were, like the storm raging outside, beginning to fall apart and spiral toward an explosive confrontation. Eleanor's standalone villa was the largest property in all of Willow Creek Estates, a sprawling, private compound. From a distance, it looked like a lavish manor, its amenities staggeringly luxurious. A golf course, an infinity pool, a car elevator. The place was equipped with every extravagance imaginable, enough to satisfy anyone's desires. And this magnificent, opulent villa was, in fact, merely the temporary residence Harrison Hayes had arranged for his daughter to rest and recuperate in solitude. As Leo drove toward the main gate, he saw Eleanor standing just inside the imposing iron doors, poised and elegant amidst the downpour, accompanied by a tall, formidable security guard. The massive guard held a black umbrella over her, shielding her from the fat raindrops while his own suit and powerful frame were soaked through. When she saw Leo's BMW emerging through the rain, Eleanor's exquisite face bloomed with a smile as bright as the stars. The guard nodded to the gatehouse, signaling for them to open the sole entrance to the estate. The two iron gates, emblazoned with golden dragons, swung slowly open. Eleanor ran toward Leo's car with a grin, the guard hurrying behind with the umbrella, terrified that a single drop of rain might touch his charge's delicate skin. The guard opened the passenger side door. Eleanor hopped in eagerly, tilting her pale chin up at Leo playfully. "Leo, you son of a bitch, what took you so long? You didn't even answer your phone." "Jesus, this rain is insane, Leo's mouth twitched. As he was about to speak, he noticed the guard glaring at him, his face a mask of cold disapproval. Leo quickly plastered on a grin and helped Eleanor with her seatbelt. "Hee, with the rain and all. Drive safe. Where your family cries, right?" The guard's piercing gaze softened as he looked at Eleanor. "Miss, call me if you need anything. I can be back within 10 minutes. You can go," Eleanor said sweetly, then impatiently patted Leo's thigh. "Babe, let's go to my room. My cat can breathe fire." "TCH, you got that from TikTok, didn't you?" "Don't think I don't know," Leo said, half amused, half exasperated. He couldn't shake the feeling that his and Eleanor's roles had been completely reversed. Up to this point, Leo figured his understanding of wealth had reached the upper echelons. He thought no display of luxury could surprise him anymore. Unfortunately, he had overestimated his own imagination. The level of opulence that money could buy was something no imagination, however rich, could ever truly compete with. The interior of Eleanor's villa was breathtakingly extravagant. The architecture was ingenious, every detail a testament to the owner's taste and fortune. The villa was surrounded by lush gardens filled with rare and exotic flowers, making it feel like a fairy tale paradise. After he parked the car, the heiress led him inside, and the sight was even more stunning. The spacious, bright living room was elegantly decorated, adorned with priceless furniture and works of art. The villa was also equipped with top-of-the-line entertainment facilities, a private movie theater, a swimming pool, a gym. It had everything. There were no neighbors, only rolling green lawns. No roads with passing cars. The sense of private territory was absolute, a perfect fusion of prestige and comfort. But the heiress didn't give Leo a tour of her grand villa. The moment they were inside, she gripped his hand and pulled him through the vast, silent living room, rushing straight for her bedroom. Leo couldn't shake the feeling that their roles had been switched. Logically, he should have been the one eagerly pulling a girl into a room to do bad things. Why was he now the one playing coy? It was a complete reversal of their roles. Yammy. The moment Eleanor pushed open her bedroom door, Leo squeezed his eyes shut, his heart pounding. He was terrified of what lurid things might assault his vision. Eleanor had mentioned more than once that she had prepared everything they would need for the day. And given the heiress's particular tastes, whatever she had prepared was bound to be outrageously kinky. How could a champion of pure love like himself handle that kind of stimulation? "What's wrong with you?" Eleanor noticed his eyes were shut and asked curiously, "Why are they closed?" A sweet, slightly confused voice sounded beside him. Leo nervously opened his eyes, but he didn't see any of the extreme props he'd been imagining. It was a room filled with an artistic, literary atmosphere, decorated with all sorts of exquisite objects. Stepping inside felt like entering a sanctuary of art. The walls were painted a soft cream, complemented by a pale blue ceiling and fine hardwood floors, creating a warm and tranquil ambience. In one corner stood an elegant bed, draped with soft silk sheets and a fluffy down comforter that practically begged you to dive into its warmth. Above the headboard hung a beautiful oil painting of a woman who looked as ethereal as a fairy. Beside the bed was a small, elegant desk with several open books, bookmarks tucked between the pages as if the owner had just paused her reading. A uniquely shaped lamp on the desk cast a soft glow, adding to the room's cozy feel. Against the wall was a set of luxurious wardrobes with mirror doors that reflected the room, making the space feel even more expansive. In the center of the room was a round rug embroidered with intricate patterns, soft and comfortable underfoot. A few potted green plants in the corner brought a touch of fresh life to the space. Overall, the room was a testament to artistic taste. Every detail showcased the owner's personality while also conveying a lifestyle of luxury and indulgence. A guitar leaned in one corner, a few sheets of music scattered beside it. Perhaps on some nights, the heiress would sit here and gently strum a moving melody. On a day like this, with the rain pouring down outside. The whole room exuded a sense of peace and elegance. "So this is your room," Leo said, looking around in surprise. He was genuinely impressed by her private sanctuary. "It's really nice. I never would have thought that someone who spends her days either being cheap or sleeping would have such a tasteful room." "It's normal, isn't it?" the heiress said nonchalantly. "Doesn't everyone decorate their room in a style they like?" "Yeah, I guess you're right." Leo's own room was a shrine to geek culture. Leo ambled around, taking in the room, while the heiress followed beside him. Then she dropped a bombshell. "So, when are we going to start? What do we need to do?" Wait, let's wait a bit," Leo said, his face flushing. Why was she even more eager than he was? "I can't believe you actually read," Leo said, nervously changing the subject. His attention fell on the desk, where several books lay open. He picked one up. The text looked like English, but the font was very different. "Is this an English book? The letters look a bit strange." "It's a German novel, The Sorrows of Young Rhine. I was reading it when I first came to Portland." The heiress gently flipped through the pages, a nostalgic smile playing on her lips. "I'm not in the same mood for reading as I was back then, so I haven't touched it in a while." When Eleanor first arrived in Portland, she was suffering from severe loneliness disorder and social anxiety, her heart shrouded in a thick fog. Back then, she would curl up in her room all day like a frightened animal, immersing herself in sorrowful literature, trying to find a sliver of comfort and connection in the words. Now, Eleanor had broken free from the grip of her illness. Under Leo's guidance, she was gradually opening her heart to a new life, no longer lost in a world of sad stories. She had started to bravely face the challenges and beauty of reality, making new friends, sharing their joys and sorrows, trying new things, and experiencing the vibrant colors of life. Even her once dull eyes had become clear and bright, as if she had been reborn. "You know German?" Leo asked, tilting his head in surprise. "I spent a year in Germany. I was bored, so I taught myself." Eleanor blinked her innocent eyes. Then, belatedly noticing Leo's astonishment, she let out a triumphant little hum. "He impressive, right?" "Very impressive," Leo said, clapping in admiration. He had no doubt about the heiress's ability to learn. They stood there for a few seconds, looking at each other in a strange silence, a charged atmosphere slowly building between them. Well, I'm a little thirsty," Leo said, rubbing his nose. He asked tentatively, "A big villa like this must have a housekeeper, right? Can you ask her to bring something to drink up here?" "I sent Mrs. Dave is home," Eleanor said, her face turning a faint red as she looked down. "It's just the two of us here today. You can do whatever you want." "Oh, is that so?" And just like that, Leo's last reservation vanished. Leo had assumed that with a beautiful woman like Eleanor practically throwing herself at him, his player skills would make this an easy win. The reality, however, was that he found himself momentarily at a loss for what to do. With a girl like Eleanor, who was so straightforward and endearingly clueless, Leo had no idea where to even begin. He had always been a player who thrived on atmosphere. He felt the best approach was to let the mood build to a certain point, and when both parties were willing, to meet each other with a tacit understanding. "Aren't we starting yet?" Eleanor lifted her pretty face and looked at the motionless Leo, asking with wide-eyed innocence, "Are you not feeling up to it today? Do you need to go buy some medicine?" She had once curiously looked it up and learned that if a man was having performance issues, he could use medication to extend his stamina. "Bullshit. When have I ever not been up to it?" Leo retorted sharply. This was a matter of a man's pride. "If you're up to it, then let's go," Eleanor said, her hands behind her back. She stood before him, poised and elegant, a slightly provocative smile on her face, as if she were ready for anything. In reality, pure as a blank sheet of paper, she naively believed she could handle anything she'd seen in the movies. "Damn it, you're pushing it." He was hard as fists, that is. Leo had never been so blatantly challenged by a girl before. He swept the slender Eleanor into his arms and tossed her roughly onto the soft, large bed, where she bounced slightly. He immediately followed, leaning over her and beginning to disarm her, freely bullying the heiress who had pushed her luck a little too far. Wait a minute. Eleanor, after all, was a girl with no experience. She quickly grabbed Leo's mischievous hands, her face paling with an unknown fear. "Wait for what? Isn't this what you wanted?" Leo forcefully broke free from her grasp and continued his campaign of conquest without restraint. But when he was about to get straight to the point, he was stunned to find that Eleanor had started to cry, her face streaked with frightened tears. "What's wrong?" In that instant, Leo's fire was completely extinguished. He gently wiped her tears away, his heart aching. As scared, Eleanor sobbed, looking at him with a heart-wrenching vulnerability, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. All talk and no game, Leo teased, his heart softening. He moved off her and lay down beside her, gently pulling the terrified heiress into his arms. He had always thought Eleanor was different from other girls, that he could cater to her tastes and be as rough as he wanted. In reality, he had misunderstood. Fantasies were one thing, but Eleanor was still a gentle and sensitive girl at heart. Of course, she would want the boy she liked to be gentle with her, especially since she had no real experience. "You're awful," Eleanor mumbled into his chest, her voice thick with grievance. "I'm sorry." Leo gently patted her back. After comforting her for a few minutes, he said, a bit exasperated, "I really thought you liked it rougher." "I do like it, I was just a little scared," Eleanor whispered, her face blushing. "Could you be a little gentler? You're all talk, aren't you? Who is it that was begging me to come bully you every day?" For once, Eleanor was being tsundere, burying her face shyly in his chest, unwilling to admit the truth. "Hey, Eleanor, I just realized you have an amazing body," Leo said, gently tracing her waist. He was changing his strategy, shifting the focus to her figure. "Really? I feel like I've gained a little weight lately." Eleanor lifted her pretty, happy face. Even with all her power and wealth, a compliment from the boy she liked made her as giddy as any normal girl. "Of course, among all my girlfriends, your body is the best," Leo gushed, his heart soaring. "Look at these legs, this waist. It's a perfect golden ratio. I'm so lucky." "I don't believe you. Lily's figure is better than mine." "I don't believe you don't like bigger," Eleanor said, making a serious comparison. Strangely, even though she knew Leo was lying, she still felt incredibly happy. "That's true, but you're not bad either," Leo said, leaning down to kiss her cherry lips. He murmured playfully, "But I prefer the sense of accomplishment that comes from raising one from small to big." "Why you're so bad?" Eleanor complained, her face burning. She knew exactly what he meant. "HM? How am I bad?" Leo's hands were already starting to wander again as he asked with amusement. "If you don't tell me, how will I know?" Eleanor didn't know how to respond. She could only look at him, helpless and shy, his roguish reflection filling her trembling eyes. "Eleanor, you're so beautiful," Leo added, a rare sincerity in his voice. "You're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." "Oh, really?" Eleanor's nervousness gradually eased, and she gently placed her hands on his chest. "Really?" With practiced skill, Leo unfastened the clasp on her back, then nonchalantly tossed it from under the covers to the side, all while continuing to talk smoothly. "I remember the first time I saw you, I was completely stunned by your beauty." Feeling a slight chill, Eleanor's face flushed. She realized what Leo was doing. "Leo, do you like me?" Sensing that they had reached the critical moment, Eleanor wrapped her arms around his neck and asked with deep emotion. "One, of course I like you. Your family is rich, and your dad is the wealthiest man in Portland. Why else do you think I'm playing you? It's not like I don't have other pretty girlfriends. Not recommended, too. Do you even need to ask? You have such a great body. You're so smart, and you're so beautiful. How could any healthy guy not like you? Recommended 3. Of course I like you. A shameless slut like you throwing herself at me. And you're this beautiful. How could I not like you? Highly recommended. Do you even need to ask? You have such a great body. You're so smart, and you're so beautiful. How could any healthy guy not like you?" After speaking, Leo gently kissed Eleanor's cheek again, then teased with a grin, "Besides, a shameless slut like you is throwing herself at me. And you're this beautiful. How could I not like you?" Ding! Eleanor Hayes' affinity has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 95. Please keep up the good work. "I'm not a slut. You're terrible." Eleanor shook her head, her face burning as she denied it without any conviction. "Eleanor, is it okay?" Leo felt the atmosphere was just right. He stroked the heiress's hot cheek and asked with deep emotion. Eleanor looked at Leo, her face completely red. She shyly lowered her head and said something that, for her, was both normal and not normal at all. "You can be gentle at first, and then you can do whatever you want." "Okay." The next morning, after a night of torrential rain, the sky finally cleared. The air was thick with the smell of moisture, as if the entire world had been washed clean. The leaves of the sycamore trees outside the window were hung with crystal-clear raindrops, glistening like strings of pearls in the faint light. Puddles of various sizes dotted the ground, reflecting the clouds and the surrounding scenery. Leo woke up first and began to deal with the remnants of last night's props. It was just as the heiress had instructed. After Leo's initial gentleness, she had taken the initiative, dragging out a box from under the bed filled with a dazzling array of peculiar items. Fortunately, the props came with their own cleanup tools, so the aftermath wasn't too troublesome. Leo used a small scraper to chip away at the wax by the window. For the bits stuck to the sheets and Eleanor's skin, he carefully picked them off with his fingernails. Among their scattered clothes, he found a small paddle and a length of brown nylon rope. After putting all the props back into the box and organizing them, he stared at it for a few seconds. Flashes of last night's activities flickered through his mind, and he quickly pushed the box back under the bed, his face flushing. Once everything was tidied up, Leo slipped back into the heiress's bed, pulling Eleanor's bruised and battered body into his arms, ready to drift off for a little more sleep. Ow! Leo's movement was a bit too rough, and Eleanor woke up with a frown, her tear-stained eyes looking at him with a pitiful expression. "I'm sorry," Leo said, his heart aching as he gently stroked the faint red marks on her body. All his handiwork. It's okay. I'm used to it." Eleanor snuggled into his chest, her beautiful face beaming with a satisfied, happy smile. "When I do it by myself, it's much rougher than you. I can handle this much." "Oh, is that so?" Leo's face turned red. He didn't know what to say. "It's you I have a problem with. Why did you keep stopping last night?" Eleanor complained, dissatisfied. "Don't you know how much of a buzzkill that is?" "How is that my fault?" Leo retorted, exasperated. "You were crying so hard. I thought you couldn't take it. How can I not stop?" Eleanor, with a stubborn look, said something astonishing. "My crying is my business, but stopping is your fault. Don't do that again, you hear me?" All right, so that's how we're playing it," Leo said, nodding seriously. He planted a loud kiss on her cheek and threatened with a triumphant smirk. "Just wait until those bruises heal. You'll see how I deal with you then." "These don't bother me. We don't have to wait." Eleanor's eyes sparkled as she looked at him, her pale ankle hooking his thigh in a clear invitation. "Jesus Christ, you're a girl. How can you be so thirsty?" Leo scolded, half laughing, as he tapped her pale forehead with his finger. "Moderation. Do you understand moderation? Do you really think your body is that resilient?" "Moderation, my ass. You're the one who taught me to live in the moment, remember?" Eleanor grabbed his wrist and bit his finger, just like when he had fed her shrimp tails, her nimble tongue teasing him playfully. "Hey, stop fooling around," Leo said, his face flushing as he pulled his finger away. He quickly changed the subject. "I'm hungry. Is there anything to eat in your house?" Eleanor lifted her pale neck, which was marked with faint ligature lines, and offered herself up eagerly. "Of course. One beautiful girl, large portion, and guaranteed to fill you up." "I'm not kidding. I haven't eaten anything since last night. I'm getting out of bed to find something to eat." Leo threw back the covers, preparing to escape this clingy little heiress. "No." Eleanor whined coquettishly, her slender white arms wrapping tightly around his thick waist, refusing to let him leave the bed. "It's still early. You're not allowed to go." "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just finding something to eat." "Hey, Eleanor, you..." Leo couldn't help but stroke her head, sighing with a mixture of helplessness and pleasure. "Damn it, you're too much." "How am I too much?" Eleanor managed to lift her eyes, mimicking his tone with a muffled voice. "If you don't tell me, how will I know?" "Leo." It wasn't until around 3 in the afternoon that the two of them finally emerged from the messy bedroom. Hey, are you serious?" As Leo entered the kitchen to cook, a barely perceptible twinge of soreness shot through his lower back. He touched his waist in disbelief, then glanced at Eleanor, who was yawning on the living room sofa while scrolling through TikTok. He couldn't believe that his body, enhanced by the Body Boost serum, was actually showing signs of fatigue. Even though it was just for a moment, it was still a sign of exhaustion. Leo didn't even want to imagine what would have happened if he had been with Eleanor without the serum. The consequences would have been devastating. Turns out, being a player wasn't just about being rich and handsome. You also needed a superhuman physique. "Leo, isn't the food ready yet? I'm so hungry." Eleanor lay languidly on the sofa, her limbs occasionally twitching. Leo brought over a pan of egg-fried rice and said irritably, "And whose fault is that?" "Hee. You have to live in the moment. Carpe diem, right?" Eleanor retorted with a grin. Her hands trembled as she pushed herself up from the sofa, her steps unsteady as she walked toward him. Seeing her shaky state, Leo couldn't help but burst out laughing. He quickly went over and scooped her into his arms, planting an annoyed kiss on her cheek. "You're all talk and no game." And I love it." Eleanor shot back playfully, then bravely confessed, "Damn, I like you so much, Leo. How can I like you this much?" "Eat," Leo said with a wry smile, carrying her to the dining table. Eleanor stared at the golden yellow fried rice in her bowl and eagerly dug in with a spoon. "How is it? Good." Leo asked, satisfied, watching her devour the food. It's okay, but not as good as Mrs. Davis's, Eleanor said with blunt honesty. Damn it, can you not be so direct? Leo complained. Even I want to be praised by you girls sometimes. Would it kill you to say it's delicious and that I'm a great cook? Didn't I spend all of last night and this morning telling you how amazing you are? The heiress blinked, her mouth greasy, and lectured him seriously. You need to learn to be content. If you constantly seek validation from others, you'll live a very tiring life. Leo nodded in satisfaction. That's true. Lesson learned. Learning is earning, Eleanor replied smugly. You still have a lot to learn. Leo. After a simple meal of fried rice, Eleanor took Leo's hand, and they strolled side by side across the vast golf course. Leo took this opportunity to tell her everything about his background and about Chloe and Maya. For Leo, Eleanor had always been the perfect person to confide in. The heiress was frank and direct. Right was right, and wrong was wrong, no matter how much you tried to argue. In her world, white could never become black. This was the main reason Leo had been willing to chat with her on that social app in the first place. For many complex problems, Eleanor could set aside conventional thinking and give the most rational answer based on her own understanding. She wouldn't tell Leo how to handle things. She would just offer her perspective directly. Leo often found himself confessing his deepest, darkest secrets to Eleanor, just to hear her opinion. Regarding the situation with Maya, Eleanor wasn't too surprised. She was already used to Leo's player behavior. Besides, she had personally witnessed him kissing Maya in the parking garage, so it was hardly shocking. The only thing that truly piqued her curiosity and astonishment was learning about his biological father, Connor Sterling. So, are you planning to acknowledge your birth father in the future? Eleanor asked, squeezing his hand and blinking curiously. Definitely not. The people who raised me are my parents. Not going to his company to cause trouble is the most I'm willing to do. It's just that you're very curious about their daily lives, right? As Leo hesitated, Eleanor instinctively finished his sentence. After all, blood is thicker than water. It would be strange if you didn't care at all. Sigh. Eleanor, Leo said with genuine admiration. Sometimes I really don't know if you're smart or dense. You even know what I'm thinking. Why do you always think that? Eleanor frowned, pouting her thin cherry lips in protest. Do I really seem dumber than other girls? Igot al 1600 sats. You know. I was on the front page of the Portland News. My bad. Leo squeezed the heiress's hand and gave it a little shake as an apology. It was mainly because when he first met Eleanor, he'd seen her as a clueless, beautiful girl with niche hobbies who lacked common sense. It was only after getting to know her better that he realized she was just bad at expressing herself. She often understood things more clearly than the people directly involved. As she gradually opened up to the world and her verbal skills improved, she could naturally articulate her insightful views. It's okay. I'm not mad. Eleanor shook her head, her face blooming into a smile. She loved this cheerful atmosphere. I'm finding I like you more and more. What am I going to do? Leo wrapped an arm around Eleanor's waist, speaking sweet nothings with a feigned look of distress. Really? Eleanor's face lit up with joy. She wrapped her arms around his neck, bringing her beautiful face close to his, and asked eagerly, So where do I rank in your heart now? Am I still number 4? 1. The strict ranking. Don't get any funny ideas. 4th place will always be 4th place. You think you can jump the line? 1st place will always be my landlady. Not recommended. 2. The deep confession. When it's just the two of us, you are always number 1. Right here, right now, no one can replace the place you hold in my heart. Highly recommended. 3. Slap her and ask disdainfully, Seriously? You think a slut like you even gets a rank? You should know your place. Recommended. Option 2 analysis. A seemingly contradictory statement, but a smart girl will understand her true position in your heart. When it's just the two of us, you are always number 1. Leo caressed Eleanor's cheek and confessed deeply. Right here, right now, no one can replace the place you hold in my heart. Damn it, I'm so happy. Eleanor hugged Leo's waist tightly, pressing herself against his chest in excitement. She rubbed against him affectionately, unabashedly expressing her joy. I'm so happy, Leo. I like you so much. Ding. Eleanor Hayes' affinity has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 100. Affinity can no longer be increased. She now considers you the most important person in her life. Ding. Eleanor Hayes' affinity has reached 100. You have received a mysterious treasure box. Open it now. Leo looked down at Eleanor's face, which was beaming with excitement, and asked playfully, Oh, How much do you like me? Damn it, I'll show you. This much. Eleanor knelt excitedly on the grass. Eager to prove her affection, she immediately reached for his belt. Hey, don't be crazy. Someone will see. Leo yelped, grabbing her hands while simultaneously holding back her approaching head, nervously looking around. This is my house. There's no one else here. Don't worry. Eleanor reminded him with wide-eyed innocence. I'm begging you, can we do this back at the house? I don't have a fetish that's severe. Hey, stop trying to pull down my pants. Leo pleaded, clutching his waistband on the verge of tears. The heiress was perfect in every way, except for this habit of being ready anytime, anywhere, with no regard for location. That, Leo felt, deserved a major point deduction. Fine. Quick, let's go back to my room. Eleanor scrambled to her feet and grabbed his arm, pulling him at a brisk walk toward the villa, which quickly turned into a joyful sprint. Leo looked at the heiress's happy yet crazed smile and relented with a sigh. Miss, can you slow down a little? It was dusk. The sky was painted with a fiery, magnificent sunset, a masterpiece of nature. In the fading light, Eleanor held Leo's hand, running gleefully toward the villa. Her long, black hair streamed behind her, gently brushing against her pale skin, releasing a faint, sweet fragrance. Among all of Leo's girlfriends, setting aside their figures, Eleanor's beauty was undoubtedly the highest. Her features were sharply defined, exquisite and captivating. Her eyes, especially, were like deep lakes, full of a mysterious allure that made you want to dive in and explore their depths. At this moment, the last rays of the setting sun bathed her in a brilliant golden light. For a dizzying second, Leo felt as if he were seeing an energetic golden elf beckoning him forward. Night gradually fell, and the city lights began to twinkle. Around 10 o'clock, after sharing a bath in the tub, Eleanor, clad in icy silk pajamas that barely concealed her flushed, pale skin, led Leo with unsteady steps to a room filled with all kinds of musical instruments. When Eleanor was home alone, she would play the piano for over an hour. It was her only hobby and, in a way, her work. Before Leo had burst into her world, this music room was the sanctuary for her soul. Every time she stepped in here, she felt a sense of peace and security. Leo, what do you want to hear? I'll play for you. Eleanor sat at the piano, her face flushed, her gaze hazy and full of a languid desire. She looked at the man beside her with a fiery dependence, her usually melodious voice now tinged with exhaustion and passion. It was a look of raw, conquered desire, one that Leo had also seen in his landlady's eyes. It held an indescribable, captivating charm. Leo crossed his arms and smiled. Whatever you want, just play your favorite piece. Then I'll play my old favorite for you. It's called Letter Written in the Rain. Eleanor smiled faintly, her flexible back straight and poised. She adjusted her posture and gently placed her fingers on the keys. As the first notes sounded, the entire room filled with a suppressive, sad, emo melody. Leo was slightly taken aback. At first, he didn't recognize the tune. But as the airs played, it dawned on him. The song Eleanor was playing was the Joker March. The sad piano piece was hugely popular on TikTok, often paired with clips of clowns and simps, along with the self-pitying lyric, "I know you're the most important thing in my world." It had been widely dubbed the Joker March by netizens. Eleanor's eyes were slightly closed, lost in the world of music, as if she had forgotten all her troubles and pressures. Her fingertips danced across the keys, as fluid and natural as flowing water. It was the first time Leo had seen her so focused. She exuded an indescribable elegance and artistry, a stark contrast to the mischievous girl who had been relentlessly demanding more and more from him just moments ago. Maybe this is what they call mo contrast, Leo thought. Wait, Eleanor played on, but something felt wrong. A strange, puzzled smile appeared on her pretty face. With such a great atmosphere right now, is it a bad idea for me to play such an emo song? Haha, you realize that now, Leo said with a laugh, then offered, how about I play a song? Eleanor was surprised. Leo, you can play the piano. You kidding? Of course I can, Leo boasted shamelessly. In reality, he knew a few basics from a music class at school. Back then, he had naively thought that learning piano would make it easier to get a girlfriend. But the old Leo had always been a slacker, giving up after less than a week and returning all his musical knowledge to the teacher. Then you play. Let me hear it. Eleanor shifted over on the bench, making room for him, and looked at him expectantly. Ahem, prepare to be underwhelmed. Leo cleared his throat seriously. After carefully studying the black and white keys, he began to press them one by one, clumsy, and comical, producing a series of disconnected notes. He sounded like a complete beginner. That sounds terrible. If I scattered some rice on the keys, a chicken could play better than you. Eleanor teased mercilessly. A hater, are we? Leo grumbled, his face flushing. It's just been a while since I've played. It's normal for my skills to be rusty. Hee, but it sounds wonderful to me. Awful and wonderful. It was just like the contradictory confession Leo had made to her, a sweet nothing they both understood. Eleanor added with a grin, from the rhythm you're playing, it seems like you know the music. Tell me what it is, and I'll play it. I've mostly forgotten, but I can probably find it on TikTok. Leo opened the app and searched for a moment. Sure enough, he found the song he had learned when he first started piano. Eleanor leaned over to look. The title was Frère Jacques. Oh, I remember this. I played this when I was a kid. Eleanor exclaimed with delight. I think this was the very first song I learned when I started piano lessons. The piece was simple. In just a few seconds, she had memorized the music and began to play. Soon, a cheerful, innocent melody filled the room. This was how the heiress viewed the world. In her mind, things weren't good or bad, valuable or worthless. It was like how boys loved watching Power Rangers or Ultraman as kids. When they grew up, influenced by society, they were forced to reject the hobbies they once cherished, killing their inner child and reluctantly accepting maturity and responsibility. The heiress wasn't pretentious like that. If she liked something, she liked it. If she didn't, she didn't. Any pianist with a bit of skill would scoff at such a childish song and would never play it in front of others. But Eleanor didn't think that way. She found the tune cheerful and fun. As she played, her face was wreathed in a joyous smile. She didn't find the song childish at all. In fact, she found it refreshingly novel. After finishing, she nodded as if savoring the memory, seemingly having rediscovered the childish innocence of her first piano lessons. See, there's a difference between Western and Eastern music, Leo said, pontificating sagely. For example, Beethoven can play the piano all night, and I still won't understand his sorrow. But the moment a trumpet blares at a country wedding back home, I know it's time to bring a gift and get in the buffet line. What's a buffet line? Eleanor asked, tilting her head curiously. Then she corrected him. And this song isn't from our country, you know? The original is French. TCH, you have no sense of humor. Leo rolled his eyes at the literal-minded heiress. Then a mischievous idea struck him. He searched for a different piece of music on his phone and urged her playfully. Eleanor, play this for me. Neon Nights? What's this? Eleanor tilted her head, curious, and instinctively began to play the notes on the screen. Oh, it's this one. As the familiar melody began, Eleanor subconsciously shifted her legs and looked at Leo's wicked grin with dawning realization. Damn it, Leo, you're too clever. Haha, what did you expect? Hey, just play the hiss. The steady rhythm of the piano dissolved into a chaotic mess. When they returned to the bedroom to sleep, the faint red imprint of piano keys was still visible on Eleanor's cheek. It was another quiet and fresh morning. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the cozy bed in the bedroom. Damn it, no wonder I couldn't pee in my dream. What kind of bad habit is this? Leo, feeling an intense pressure in his sleep, frowned and opened his eyes. He couldn't help but chuckle as he moved Eleanor's little hand away. After a long, satisfying stretch, Leo felt incredibly refreshed, as if every bone in his body had been relaxed. The serum seemed to have washed away all his fatigue. He felt full of energy, completely ready for another round. The window had been left open last night, and a cool breeze wafted in. Leo looked out at the golf course, his heart swelling with contentment. A vast expanse of green stretched out before him, like a soft carpet extending to the horizon. The sky was a brilliant, clear blue, like a giant sapphire set above his head. This was the beauty of a standalone villa. Absolute privacy. There was none of the city's clamor, only a tranquil sense of seclusion. Of course, as beautiful as the scenery was, Leo still thought the girl in his bed was far superior. He gently lifted the soft blanket. The glamorous, multi-billion-dollar heiress, the daughter of Portland's richest man, a woman whose beauty the system itself rated 9. 8, a goddess whom others could only admire from afar, was now sleeping soundly and adorably by his pillow. Occasionally, she would smack her pink lips or mumble some incomprehensible nonsense. Exhausted from the past 2 days, her breathing was a little heavy, and her legs would twitch now and then, as if it had become muscle memory. Leo still felt like he was in a dream. He was actually sleeping with the daughter of Portland's wealthiest man. It felt completely unreal. If it weren't for the fading red marks of piano keys on Eleanor's face and the handprints on her perky bottom, Leo would have thought he was dreaming. He gently stroked Eleanor's smooth, pale cheek, thinking again how truly beautiful she was. Her face, completely free of makeup, was simply divine. This life is too good. Just let me drown in this bliss. Leo sighed with immense satisfaction. He snuggled back under the covers, pulled the beautiful girl into his arms, and gave her a firm kiss. A private villa, no one around, and a stunningly beautiful woman who would do anything for you. This kind of carefree life was beyond wonderful. But fantasy is beautiful, and reality is cruel. Moments later, the ringing of his phone shattered the peace. It was the head of his company's distribution department, telling him a movie was about to be released in theaters nationwide, and that he needed to be at the office to oversee various ceremonies. While Leo was talking to the department head, Eleanor woke up. She lay beside him, her clear eyes wide open, watching the man she loved with adoration. It was only when she heard that Leo had to leave that her lips formed a little pout. It was a normal reaction for most girls, especially for Eleanor, who had just completely given herself to him 2 days ago. In this state, a girl is usually incredibly clingy, wanting to be with her boyfriend from morning till night. "You have to go?" Eleanor asked glumly, straddling his waist and looking down at him. Leo gazed unabashedly at the sensual scene in the bed and even reached out to flick away a small piece of residual wax from her skin. "Yep, your boyfriend has to go make some money." "I don't get you," Eleanor said curiously. "I'm obviously very rich. Why do you still work so hard to make money?" "A man has to have something to do," Leo said patiently, stroking her hair back from her face. "If you just think about eating, drinking, and having fun all day, life becomes very decadent." "That makes sense." The heiress stroked her pale chin, mulling it over. "If a person just plays all day, they really will become lazy." "Hee hee, but I'm not leaving until this afternoon." Leo patted her perky bottom. "Come here and scroll through TikTok with me for a bit. Then I'll have breakfast with you, and then I'll be off." Okay. Eleanor happily squeezed in beside him and unhesitatingly handed him her phone. "Use mine. My TikTok is full of the kind of girls you like." All right. You're letting your boyfriend watch videos of other girls. Aren't you jealous?" "I am, but I think the excitement is even greater." Eleanor admitted excitedly. "If you could chat with him on a live stream and then insult me for her, I'd be even more thrilled." Leo was on the verge of tears. "Damn it, I forgot you had that particular skill set. Didn't you say it's a normal hobby, just a bit niche?" Eleanor blinked nonchalantly and urged him on. "Leo, how about next time you bring Chloe or Lily to my place? I'll hide in the closet, and then you guys can—" Stop. Let's just scroll TikTok, okay?" Leo quickly cut her off, his face burning, afraid she would say something even more shocking. Just as Eleanor had said, her TikTok feed was filled with fair-skinned, long-legged beauties and female streamers, along with all sorts of suggestive videos. The only normal content was a few piano pieces and funny short clips. "Leo, do you like what you see?" Eleanor asked, watching him excitedly. It wasn't the stern questioning of a typical girlfriend, but a look of eager anticipation. It seemed she wanted him to praise these other girls in front of her, to experience that forbidden thrill of unrequited longing. "Not bad. They're definitely hot. Much better looking and with better bodies than you. You're not even worthy of polishing their shoes." "I don't know what I ever saw in you," Leo said, nodding readily. Since the heiress enjoyed this kind of atmosphere, he wasn't about to spoil her fun. Ding! Eleanor Hayes' affinity has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 100. Affinity can no longer be increased. She now considers you the most important person in her life. "Leo, you're such a player, praising other girls in front of your girlfriend," Eleanor exclaimed, her face flushing with excitement, her voice trembling. "Well, I like looking, and you like that I'm like this, right? In the future, I'm going to—" Hey, I'm kidding. Keep your hands to yourself. Your body can't take it. "No, I have to show my body who's the real boss." Eleanor climbed on top of him, her face flushed as she teased. "Leo, don't let your will conquer your desire." "Leo, this is the most incredible invention I've ever seen." A young man from the countryside uses just a few PVC pipes to automatically pump water from pond. The young man stands by the pond, smoking several cigarettes in a row, and the self-developed water pump is still going. It's truly incredible. Around 11 a.m., Leo lay contentedly on the soft, messy bed, scrolling through TikTok. He held Eleanor, whose skin was hot and rosy and whose body was still twitching, in his arms. They had been watching short videos for over 10 minutes, but Eleanor hadn't moved an inch. She clung to Leo, her usually clear eyes now hazy with desire and filled with a look of submissive dependence. "Damn it, Leo, you're amazing," Eleanor finally managed to say after a few minutes, her rosy cheek rubbing against his broad hand in a heartfelt compliment. No, you're the amazing one. I can't compare to you," Leo said with a weak smile, not daring to agree. He was still a little intimidated by her. Perhaps because her inner self had been suppressed for so long by her parents' strict upbringing, Eleanor's needs in this area were even more intense than his landlady's. Or maybe players with niche tastes just had much stronger desires than ordinary people. Otherwise, what good girl registers a new game account and can immediately go toe-to-toe with a high-level player like Leo? "I'm so tired, Leo," Eleanor murmured lazily, her head resting on his arm, her pale legs lightly wrapped around his calf. "I didn't expect it to be this exhausting. I feel like all my bones have turned to jelly." "It's not that bad," Leo said, gently kissing her cheek. "Why don't we watch some TikTok, and then I'll leave. You can get some good rest at home." "Okay," Eleanor replied, like a docile bird. She felt like she didn't want to get out of bed all day. With the summer heat in full swing, various resorts and water parks were advertising heavily on TikTok to attract tourists. Leo and Eleanor had swiped through several such videos. Seeing the visitors in swimsuits having a great time, Eleanor looked at Leo expectantly. "Leo, I want to go to a water park too. Can you take me when you have time?" Leo was about to agree, but the thought of other men seeing the heiress in a swimsuit made him immediately change his mind. "No, I don't want other men to see you in a swimsuit." The heiress froze for a second, then broke into a blissful smile, her legs tightening around his calf. Then we won't go." The feeling of being cherished by the man she liked made her incredibly happy. "Hey, with a huge swimming pool like yours, why would you need to go to a water park?" Leo suggested. "You're just going to play in the water anyway. You might as well do it in your own pool." The villa had a massive infinity pool out back, big enough to accommodate dozens of people. "I can't. I don't know how to swim," Eleanor said, shaking her head helplessly. "The old man said swimming would make my limbs thicker, so he never let me learn." "It's fine. It's not like you'll be swimming all the time. If you don't know how, I'll teach you," Leo urged nonchalantly. "If you don't tell, and I don't tell, how would your dad ever find out?" Leo, you're so bad." The thrill of doing something rebellious for the first time made Eleanor giddy with excitement. She had never broken a rule in her life. Even now, with her personality and common sense having changed so drastically, she was still a good girl who wouldn't disobey her parents' wishes. But every girl goes through a rebellious phase, especially one like Eleanor who had been a good girl for over 20 years. Although learning to swim was no big deal, for Eleanor, it was a betrayal of her parents' wishes, a secret act of defiance. It felt strangely thrilling. Most girls are like this. Once they truly fall for a man, even if they were once a cold, proud swan with a haughty and willful personality, they will become docile and obedient. As long as it's not something too outrageous, she will bow her head for you, willingly becoming your little woman, doing her best to satisfy any request you make, just to avoid disappointing or angering you. This was even more true for a straightforward girl like Eleanor. Once you completely conquered her body and soul, it was no exaggeration to say that you would become her top priority, even above herself or her parents. Whenever she encountered something delicious or fun, you would be the first person she thought of, the first person she wanted to share it with. If you ran into trouble, she would do everything in her power to help you. In short, from now on, Leo's business was her business. She would subconsciously put him at the center of her world, thinking of him in everything she did. The heiress and Lily had one thing in common. In their eyes, nothing in the world was more important than Leo's happiness. This was the main reason why, last night, Eleanor had unhesitatingly fulfilled every one of his requests. "So, do you want to learn or not?" Leo asked, stroking her cheek dotingly. "If you do, you should buy a swimsuit in the next few days. It's a waste not to use such a big pool. I'll come over and teach you personally." "Okay, I'll text you when the swimsuit arrives." After only a moment's hesitation between her boyfriend and her father, Eleanor readily agreed. Then, true to her nature, she added, "And when you're teaching me to swim, don't forget to get handsy with me. I've seen it in a lot of movies." I definitely won't forget. You're so beautiful. I'll definitely take advantage," Leo replied without surprise. He was getting used to their dynamic. You're so bad." Eleanor giggled and playfully squirmed in his arms. Her sparkling eyes looked at him deeply as she made a brave and passionate confession. "Leo, I don't think I just like you anymore. I think I'm in love with you. The kind where I don't want to be apart from you for a single second." Leo nodded seriously. You're definitely in love with me. I believe that." "Hey, I'm being serious for once. Can't you just listen properly? Eleanor recognized the teasing tone in his voice and whined softly. Do you love me, Leo? I do. Leo responded without hesitation. The heiress never spoiled his fun, and he wouldn't let her down emotionally either. Eleanor, ecstatic, wrapped her arms around his neck, pulled herself close, and closed her eyes expectantly, giving a willful command. Then kiss me. Damn it, fine. Leo, I'm thinking of downloading this game. I want to see what they mean when they talk about getting carried. Sure, it's a good way to kill time now and then. Leo, what does wipe it down mean? Why is that girl saying it while she dances? It's a song, I think. You do the wiping motion. Then you shake your hips and act all sexy. Hee, you should dance like that for me sometime. While wearing a swimsuit. Okay, I'll dance for you in whatever you want me to wear. Whoa, you agreed so quickly. Not even a moment's hesitation. Why would I hesitate? You're my boyfriend. I like dancing for you. That's true. After a long, passionate embrace, the two of them started cuddling and scrolling through TikTok again. Watching TikTok with Eleanor was unbelievably comfortable. Her account was filled with fair-skinned, beautiful girls or provocative streamers or stunningly attractive women playing the piano. While Leo enjoyed the highbrow and lowbrow content alike, not only would the heiress not get jealous, she would ask for his opinion on the girls and even promise to learn their dance moves to perform for him privately. What more could a man ask for in a girl who was so dedicated to his happiness? Seeing that it was almost 1 p.m., Leo planned to leave the heiress at 1 o'clock sharp to head to the office. Welcome, Island Snow, to the stream. Just then, Leo swiped to a female streamer who had just gone live. Using the heiress's ID, Leo entered the stream as her first viewer. The streamer looked a bit older, probably in her early 30s, with a decent face and figure. The only strange thing was that she seemed a bit reserved, not as bold and open as the other streamers Leo had seen. Her voice was even a little nervous. She seemed timid and shy in front of the camera, with a hint of reluctant helplessness. She had a strange mix of innocent awkwardness and the mature charm of a married woman. Leo didn't think much of it at first and was about to swipe away, but the streamer's familiar face made him do a double take. After a moment of careful scrutiny, he shot up in bed, startling Eleanor. What's wrong? No way. That's my high school homeroom teacher. Leo muttered in disbelief. After another look, he was certain it was the teacher he had run in not long ago, Clara Shelton. Since helping Lily deal with the bullying incident, Leo and Clara hadn't spoken. He had been busy juggling his various girlfriends and hadn't had time to catch up with her. He never expected that in just a month or two, his teacher would become a TikTok streamer. Leo quickly took a screenshot of the stream and sent it to himself on his messaging app. Then he reached for his own phone in his pants pocket and found Clara Shelton in his contacts. Offline mode, Ms. Shelton, is this you? Grin. After sending the message, Leo turned his attention back to Eleanor's phone. Clara clearly didn't know how to run a stream. She didn't even know how to manage her background notifications. Leo's message popped up right on the screen for everyone to see. Clara clicked on the message, then looked up, staring blankly at the camera for a few seconds before frantically ending the stream. When Leo clicked on her account again, he found it had been deleted without a trace. At the same time, his own phone buzzed with a message from Clara. Clara Shelton. Clara Shelton. Leo, I was just messing around. It's not what you think. Oh, so nervous? Leo couldn't help but be curious. He hadn't really asked anything, yet his teacher was already so concerned about him discovering her stream. Was she planning on broadcasting something spicy? But Clara didn't seem like the type to do that. She was a respected university instructor. It just didn't make sense for her to be doing thirst trap streams. The only possibility was that Clara was in desperate need of money. Otherwise, she wouldn't have resorted to live streaming. 1. Be casual. It's okay, Ms. Shelton. I just thought she looked a lot like you. I didn't expect it to actually be you. Facepalm recommended too. Show concern. It's okay, Ms. Shelton. Live streaming is totally normal these days. I even thought about becoming a game streamer once. It's just, I don't remember you quitting your job. Why are you taking on a side gig? Are you having some kind of trouble? Smile. Highly recommended 3. Threaten her, Ms. Shelton. You wouldn't want your students to find out you're doing thirst trap streams, would you? Not recommended. It's okay, Ms. Shelton. Live streaming is totally normal these days. I even thought about becoming a game streamer once. Leo typed quickly. It's just, I don't remember you quitting your job. Why are you taking on a side gig? Are you having some kind of trouble? Maybe you can tell me about it. I might be able to help. Smile. The typing indicator appeared for a long time before she finally laid it all out. It turned out that a female student in Clara's class with excellent grades had been diagnosed with liver cancer. The one stroke of luck was that the girl was a specific recipient type. The hospital had a targeted CAR T-cell therapy that could treat her cancer. With regular infusions, her condition could improve in 2 to 3 months. But the CAR T-cell therapy was incredibly expensive. A single injection cost a staggering $200,000. And for the next 3 to 4 months, she would need one injection every month for it to be effective. Being able to get into Portland State meant the girl's family was well off. But since her diagnosis, her family had sold everything they owned and had only managed to scrape together enough for one injection. If she didn't receive the subsequent infusions on time, her condition would rapidly deteriorate, and at that point, even money wouldn't be able to save her. The feeling of having a life-saving medicine available, but no money to buy it, was one of utter desperation and helplessness. When Clara found out, she donated her entire life savings and organized a fundraiser with her class, but all told, they had only raised about $50,000. Clara was very fond of this student and couldn't bear to watch her wither away in a hospital bed. With no other options, she had decided to take a chance and try live streaming on TikTok. But on her very first day, just as she had her props and outfit ready, the first person she encountered was the male student who had recently made her heart flutter, Leo Shepard. Reading the long, dense text from Clara, Leo couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. In today's materialistic society, someone willing to give up their entire fortune to help a student they barely knew was truly great, even selfless. Leo knew he could never do something so altruistic, but hearing that Clara had done it felt expected. She truly was a good teacher who cared for her students. It had to be said, some people were born to be educators, while others weren't even fit to be called human. Leo was silent for a moment. Then he sent Clara a Venmo transfer for $5,000 and typed a message of encouragement. Offline mode. Keep it up, Ms. Shelton. This is just a small contribution for me. I hope your student gets better soon. Fist bump. Clara Shelton. Okay. Thank you, Leo. Fist bump. Ding. Clara Shelton's affinity has increased by 2 points. Current affinity, 32. Please keep up the good work. Leo, why don't you just help her? A few million doesn't seem like a lot to you, Eleanor asked curiously, her head resting in his lap. Is your company short on cash lately? Do you want me to help? No, it's not that. The thing is, she's Lily's homeroom teacher, and Chloe and Lily go to the same university. If I get involved in a big way, I'll definitely get drawn into the whole mess, and it might expose everything. Leo stroked Eleanor's hair as he talked, making a calculated prediction. But Lily has a kind heart. When she hears about this, she'll definitely want to help this girl. She'll probably come to me about it in a few days. At that point, I'll provide the money and help the girl in Lily's name. Oh, so that's how it is. I didn't think that far ahead, Eleanor said, impressed. You're a surprisingly meticulous player. No wonder you have all these girls wrapped around your finger. You kidding? How else would I have managed to land a beautiful girl like you? Leo teased bluntly. He had never needed to use any high-level pickup lines on Eleanor. She didn't require them. But you didn't play me. I've been the one throwing myself at you from the beginning, and I haven't even asked you to be responsible for me. Eleanor blinked, clarifying seriously. All right, you really are a shameless slut. Leo had, shockingly, grown accustomed to Eleanor saying such outrageous things. His hand, which was resting on her slender waist under the covers, gave her perky bottom a light pat. Okay, it's getting late. No more funny business. Your player boyfriend has to go to the office. Okay. Eleanor reflexively smoothed her hair and was about to dive under the covers when Leo, his face flushing, pressed her head down. I meant for you to get up, not to do that. Aren't you tired at all? You're the one who taught me. Besides, if you don't tell me, how will I know? Eleanor retorted willfully. Ugh, you're a monster. Leo affectionately pinched Eleanor's soft cheek. The heiress grinned, revealing 2 rows of pearly white teeth. She loved these intimate, playful moments with him. If he were a little rougher, that would be even better. Leo. As Leo was pulling his BMW out of the private garage, Eleanor appeared at the window, completely naked, waving her pale arm cheerfully, like a princess full of innocent joy. The sunlight cascaded over her pale body, draping her in a golden veil and making her radiate a captivating light. She tilted her head slightly, and the sun perfectly illuminated her exquisite face. Her high nose, cherry-like lips, and clear, watery eyes were all breathtaking. At that moment, Eleanor was like a fairy who had stepped out of a painting, so beautiful it was suffocating. Leo rolled down his window and waved back with a smile. Damn it, have you no shame? Go put some clothes on and get some rest. I won't. Eleanor lifted her pale chin proudly. It feels nice to be naked in the sun. You pervert. I'm leaving, Leo said with a helpless smile, hitting the gas and speeding toward the main gate. But I'm a pervert who belongs only to you, Eleanor murmured to herself, her thoughts swirling as she watched the BMW disappear down the road. A hot breeze gently rustled her hair, a few strands falling across her pale cheek, adding another touch of alluring charm. Leo, what are you doing? As Leo was driving to his office, just as he had predicted, Lily called him. I'm driving. What's up, wifey? Leo said with a playful smile, one hand on the steering wheel. Checking up on me already? Want me to video call you? Ding. Lily Reed's affinity has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 100. Affinity can no longer be increased. She now considers you the most important person in her life. Just one affectionate wifey. And Lily on the other end of the line was so shy and happy she couldn't speak, her increasingly heavy breathing clearly audible. While you're driving, so I won't bother you. Drive safe, okay? I'll talk to you tonight when I get back. Lily, both shy and relieved, was about to hang up. She had always been a very considerate girlfriend and would never disturb him when he was driving or busy. It's fine. I'm stuck in traffic right now. Probably won't be moving for a while, Leo interrupted. Whatever it is, you can tell me now. Besides, I haven't seen you in a few days. I wanted to hear your voice. Oh, is that so? Lily's voice was now clearly filled with joy. She felt that Leo was being much sweeter to her today, constantly flirting with her. Usually, he was always so gruff. It's just, a classmate of mine is sick, and our whole class has been raising money, but it's still not enough for her medical bills. Lily sounded hesitant. I was wondering if I could borrow some money from you. Don't worry, I'll pay you back after I get a job. I'm your boyfriend, and you're asking to borrow money from me? Leo was so exasperated by her statement that he couldn't help but let his Idaho accent slip out. Lily, are you a dumbass? They'd been living together for so long, had done everything they should and shouldn't have done, inside and out. It was no exaggeration to say that the only thing missing was a marriage certificate to prove their relationship. And she was still thinking about borrowing money from her own boyfriend?